in prison. I develop Mechas to break out. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76 Price Reduction. On the 25th, at 7 o'clock in the morning, Xiaomi, a technology blogger with millions of fans online, opened the live broadcast early. Because she had made a preview last night, thousands of people flocked to Xiaomi's live broadcast as soon as she started. Xiaomi has a sweet appearance and a generous personality. She greeted the people in the live broadcast room and said, "Friends, as I said yesterday, let's go to Sanlitun now. There is Warwick's largest flagship store there. Let's go and see if Mate 40 will suffer a Waterloo as predicted on the internet, and no one will buy it." The assistant took a mobile phone to shoot, and Xiaomi drove, saying, "There are still 30 minutes to the destination. It will be around 7:30 when we get there. Don't get stuck in traffic." You ask me if I wanted to buy it. Of course I will buy it. If the live broadcast room gets more than 1 million likes, I will broadcast the first disassembly of the entire network today and directly disassemble the Mate 40 to see what the legendary Xiangxin 100 is like. The number of people in the live broadcast room continued to rise. Xiaomi communicated while arriving in Sanlitun more than half an hour later. "Okay, the Huawei flagship store is in front. I remember that the Apple flagship store is across the street. Some people on the internet said that Huawei sells at such a high price to compete with Apple. I wonder if Apple panicked after yesterday's press conference." At 8 o'clock in the morning, there were already people in Sanlitun. Xiaomi had a clear purpose and went straight to the Huawei flagship store. As she walked, Xiaomi suddenly found that there were people queuing in front of her. "Oh my god, is there anyone queuing?" Xiaomi was instantly excited. In the live broadcast room, there were hundreds of thousands of viewers. Seeing the long queue in front of them, they were also incredulous and talked about it. "Are you joking? Where did so many idiots come from to buy Warwick for more than 8,000 yuan? Maybe they are queuing to buy other things, not necessarily Mate 40. That's right, it's not an Apple. Is there any need to rush to buy it? What does the person above mean? If someone can rush to buy Apple, why can't someone rush to buy Warwick? In the past, our mobile phones were not as good as others, and we admit that Apple is powerful, but now, our technology is not much worse than Apple, and it is even stronger than Apple. Why can't we rush to buy it? Support Warwick. Beat Apple." Xiaomi immediately came to the front of the line, grabbed a boy and asked, "Handsome boy, what are you doing?" The boy glanced at the camera next to Xiaomi and said nothing. "Buying a mobile phone, Mate 40, don't you know it? Are all these people?" Xiaomi asked in surprise. The boy nodded and said, "I came at 6 o'clock, but I still queued here. I heard that some people came to queue up since the early morning." Xiaomi was so scared that her face turned pale and said, "Come to queue up in the early morning, is it true?" A boy in front turned his head and said, "Don't believe him. Those who come to queue up in the early morning are 100% scalpers." "Yes, there are scalpers." Xiaomi suddenly realized and said to the audience, "It is said that the production capacity of Xiangxin 100 is insufficient, so Huawei can't produce too many machines in the first batch. Of course, these are all rumors, and no one knows whether they are true or not. If the production is really insufficient, it is normal for scalpers to stock up. So friends, if you really plan to change your mobile phone, hurry up." After speaking, Xiaomi said, "Let's go to the front and take a look." With her assistant, Xiaomi walked along the long queue. The whole queue was hundreds of meters long. The live broadcast room was already boiling. "Damn, it's fake. I guess Huawei paid for it to queue up and create a hot selling atmosphere. That's right, buying a broken domestic mobile phone and queuing up, it's nonsense. Why can't Huawei queue up? I think it's true. Just wait and see. I believe that Mate 40 will sell well this time. That's right, I think Huawei is right to sell it against Apple. Why can't our mobile phone sell better than Apple?" The two parties in the live broadcast room started to curse each other directly. At this time, Xiaomi also came to the front of the line. It can be seen that there are already employees maintaining order at the door of Huawei flagship store. At the same time, there are several people who look like anchors next to them, also filming, as if they are broadcasting live. Xiaomi said distressedly, "The line is so long, how long will I have to queue up? In this way, I'll let my assistant go to queue up first, and we will continue to chat." After calling her assistant to queue up, Xiaomi was about to go up to interview several customers in line, and suddenly her eyes lit up and said, "My friends, I saw an old friend." As she said, Xiaomi immediately met a man holding a SLR camera and shooting. "Let me introduce to you all, this uncle is the special guest blogger of the Zol mobile phone forum, the Yaodeo himself. Come on, Uncle Yaodeo, say hello to our friends first." The man waved at the camera with a helpless look and said, "Why are you here?" Xiaomi said, "You are here. Why can't I come as a technology blogger? I plan to buy one today and disassemble it. Look at the line. Some people have lined up." Yaodeo smiled mysteriously and said, "You want to disassemble it, right? Come to me. I have already got a Mate 40 Pro in advance. If nothing goes wrong, I will be able to receive it when the courier goes to work in a while." "What? How did you get it in advance?" Xiaomi exclaimed. Yaodeo laughed and said, "What are you saying? I'm a technology blogger with millions of fans. Am I not qualified to do a review on a mobile phone or something?" Xiaomi pouted and said, "Then I have tens of millions of fans. Why should I be treated differently?" Yaodeo smiled complacently and said, "Then you have to ask Huawei. By the way, let me show you something interesting." As he spoke, Yaodeo pulled Xiaomi to the opposite side and pointed to the Apple flagship store opposite and said, "Did you see it?" Xiaomi took a look and immediately exclaimed, "Oh my god, Apple actually lowered the price. The entire Apple 12 series has been reduced by 1000. Is this true?" Huawei held a press conference yesterday and announced that it will officially go on sale today and the price will be benchmarked against Apple 12. However, Apple 12 immediately reduced the price by 1000. Are they scared? In the live broadcast room, many viewers were also boiling. "Fuck, is this true? Apple actually lowered the price by 1000. That's great. If it's really great, then go buy it." Humph, I think Apple is scared and can only lower the price to sell it. No matter how the sales of Mate 40 are, I support it, just because it can scare Apple. Xiaomi was shocked and asked quickly, "Uncle Yaodeo, let me interview you. Do you think Apple is scared?" Yaodeo shrugged and said, "Who knows whether it is scared or not. Maybe Apple wants to rely on price cuts to hit the sales of Mate 40. No one can tell. But I have to say that Mate 40 really impacted Apple, at least made Apple feel panicked. It's not easy to do this. Let's go. It's almost time. It's on sale. Let's go over and take a look." Yaodeo patted Xiaomi on the shoulder and walked towards the Warwick flagship store. Chapter 77. The first demolition on the internet. At 8 o'clock, the Huawei flagship store officially opened. Don't squeeze. Take your time. Customers who want to buy Mate 40, please go through the special channel here. If you want to buy other mobile phones or want to experience Mate 40, you can go directly to the store to visit. We have arranged a trial machine here. The store manager held a big loudspeaker and directed the order on the scene loudly. I expected that there would be queues, but I didn't expect so many people to come. I was originally going to let anyone enter the store. Now, if they rush in, there might be big problems, so the store manager decided temporarily to set aside an area for people who queued to buy Mate 40 to register and buy. The crowd began to surge. "Stop talking nonsense. I've been queuing for 7 or 8 hours. My bladder is about to explode. Hurry up. 10 pros. Hurry up." A middle-aged man in the front shouted while holding his stomach. The store manager glanced at him and bought 10 at once. No doubt a scalper. During this release, there were rumors that the production of Zhou Yang 100 was insufficient, resulting in a shortage of Mate 40 Pro, so scalpers also heard the news and planned to stock up and raise the price. Okay, please come in," the store manager said hurriedly, but he sneered in his heart. If these scalpers went to their warehouse to take a look, they might not have the idea of stocking up. The team began to move. Xiaomi was surprised and said, don't these people buy it directly without experiencing it? Yaodao smiled and said, think about it, when we rushed to buy Apple before, wasn't it the same? We bought it directly for fear that we couldn't get it, and to be honest, we have watched the press conference, what else is there to experience? Just buy it, if you want it. As he said that, Yaodao patted Xiaomi and said, let's go, I'll take you to see the real machine. Can it be opened? Xiaomi asked hurriedly. Yaodao nodded and said, it must be opened. Then what are you talking about? Let's go quickly. Xiaomi grabbed Yaodao and left. 20 minutes later, the two came to Yaodao's home and turned on the live broadcast again. Friends, this is the first time to unbox Mate 40 on the internet. Are you looking forward to it? Yaodao also set up a camera and was filming. Unboxing. Yaodao gently took out the phone and said, I have to say, the workmanship is really top notch. The feel is first class. It's just like a work of art. Xiaomi next to him also smiled and said, it is said that this time Mate 40 uses the most sufficient materials, all of which are top notch. Yaodao didn't waste any words and turned on the phone to experience it. This fluency is amazing. It just so happens that our community has a 5G network. Let's try what it feels like to download 100 apps at the same time. Yaodao clicked on the application center and began to randomly select apps to download. The Hangmeng system feels good to use. Yaodao commented while clicking on 100 apps. Since there was no Wi-Fi connection, all of them were waiting to be downloaded. Xiaomi next to him said, Uncle Yaodao, isn't 100 a little too few? This is the Xiangxin 100, which is known as the most powerful mobile phone chip in history and has a performance 100 times that of A14. If you want to test it, let's do something difficult, and then another 100. Yaodao thought so and said, okay, let's go with 200. The live broadcast room was also shocked. Download 200 apps at a time and install them at the same time. Can this phone handle it? I don't know about other phones, but if Xiangxin 100 is as powerful as Huawei advertises, it should be no problem. But installing 200 applications at a time, this is too awesome. It won't be installed at once, but it still needs to be downloaded, but at least dozens of apps should be installed at a time. At this time, Yaodao also struggled to click on the 200 apps. Okay, everyone, watch, I'm now in 5G connection mode. I have tested the network speed before, and it is absolutely first class. Let's start. Yaodao turned on the traffic to download directly, and then 200 apps entered the download state at the same time. Then Yaodao saw that icons kept popping up on his desktop. In less than 5 seconds, a page of screen was installed. Fuck, what about the installation process? Did it install in seconds? Xiaomi couldn't help but scream, grabbing her hair and said, my scalp is numb now. It installed in seconds. It installed in seconds. I couldn't even see the installation process. And I felt that it was not installed one by one, but 5 or 6 apps popped up in an instant. It means that, as long as they are downloaded, they can all be installed immediately. This is too scary. Quick, uncle, open the application quickly. Keep opening and opening. Yaodao also reacted and hurriedly clicked on the application on the desktop. The application opened immediately, and there was no lag at all. And the key is that the application is still being installed here. Yaodao kept opening the application and stopped after opening more than a dozen in a row. It was not that he didn't want to open it, but that the application had been installed. It's installed. 200 apps have been installed. How long did it take? Less than a minute. Yaodao exclaimed. Xiaomi was also shocked and said, I feel that, if it weren't for the download speed limit, the installation speed would be even faster. Uncle, open the applications. Open 200 applications at the same time, and see if they can all be opened. Yaodao nodded and continued to open applications, saying, I'm not worried about whether the SOC can hold up, but whether the memory is enough. I used to think that 16GB memory was exaggerated, but now I feel that 16GB is still too small. In front of the screen, Yaodao kept opening applications and opened more than 130 in a row before stopping. Not enough memory. Yaodao stopped and opened the task manager. More than 100 applications were running in the background, so dense that people's scalps tingled. Too powerful. Yayodeo clicked on one at random and said, it's truly full background, without any background programs. Let's take a look at the application efficiency of the chip. Yayodeo installed an app to record the chip's operating status at the beginning. When he opened it and checked the records, he screamed and said, oh my god, who are we? Said before that mobile phone chips would have excess performance. Now I believe it. You see, from beginning to end, the peak application efficiency of the SOC is only 5%. It's crazy. I really want to see what conditions are needed for this thing to run at full power. There was also a burst of exclamations in the live broadcast room. 200 apps are installed in seconds. The performance is too terrifying. And so many apps can be opened in the background, and the key is that it doesn't lag. Who dares to say that Hangmeng will lag? A performance monster, a real performance monster. I'm suddenly excited. I won't say more. I'm going to place an order on JD.com. Just for this Xiangxin 100. I also plan to buy one to try. By the way, the anchor should disassemble the machine. Be the first to disassemble it on the entire network, or else others will get there first. In front of the camera, Xiaomi also hurriedly said, yes, uncle, disassemble the machine. This Xiangxin 100 is so powerful. I want to see what kind of chip it is that has such powerful performance. Yayodeo nodded vigorously. He was also interested in this invincible chip. Chapter 78 Reverse Engineering, Non-existent. Yayodeo had a full set of professional disassembly equipment at home, and he knew how to disassemble the phone, so he started disassembling it right away. After some effort, he opened the back cover. Seeing the internal situation, Yayodeo was shocked and said, there have been rumors before that all major mobile phone manufacturers will soon release all-inclusive motherboards, which means that the Lungsan battery will be packaged on the motherboard like a chip. In this way, the motherboard structure will be more reasonable, and there will be no need for multi-layer motherboards, so the mobile phone can be made thinner. Come and take a look. This is what the world's first all-inclusive motherboard looks like. The camera was aimed at the inside of the phone. Sure enough, the motherboard was integrated, and there was no huge battery pack taking up space, so the internal space became extremely reasonable. He disassembled it step by step. They are all top-level configurations. The advantage of large space is that there is more space for top-level configurations, and there is no need to make trade-offs. From this perspective, the launch of the Lungsan battery has also fundamentally changed mobile phones. In the future, mobile phones will only be thinner and have stronger performance. Okay, this should be the Lungsan battery. This thing is the size of a chip. It is really hard to imagine that it can have a capacity of more than 8000 mAh. There is no doubt that byte is awesome. Xiaomi interrupted. It should be said that matrix energy is awesome. I have read an analysis post that said that both Lungsan batteries and Xiangxin 100 were actually developed by matrix energy. Matrix energy is so mysterious, and it is most likely the country behind it. This shows that the country is promoting these technologies. Yayodeo did not say much, and continued to dismantle, gradually frowning. This place should be the chip, but this package is a bit difficult to dismantle. Yayodeo pointed to a piece of iron-like area on the motherboard and said. Xiaomi also came over and said, it seems to be fully encapsulated. Is this to prevent others from disassembling the machine? Yayodeo thought for a while and said, it should be like this. Maybe they are afraid that the technology will be cracked by others. Think about it, this thing is not a silicon-based chip, but a brand new technology. Even if you apply for a patent, it will be useless. People will directly imitate you. It is not so easy to build a patent wall in a short time. So I think Huawei must have used special packaging technology to maintain its advantage for a certain period of time, so that it is difficult to disassemble it, impossible to disassemble it, or even broken once it is disassembled. Xiaomi nodded and said, doesn't that mean that, if it is broken, the chip can only be replaced directly with the motherboard? I guess so. Yayodeo thought about it and said, let's not disassemble it first. If we disassemble it by force, I feel that this thing will be 100% broken. I have to study it first, and then consider how to disassemble it. Xiaomi's face was full of regret. What she wanted to see most was this Xiangxin 100. My friends, I can't see it. The audience in the live broadcast room didn't say anything. I understand. If it will break, if you disassemble it, it's better not to disassemble it. That's right. Huawei did this for a clear purpose, which is to prevent you from stealing technology. In the past, we were the ones who reverse engineered and copied other people's technology. Now it's finally their turn to reverse engineer us. It's great. This person really guessed it right. On the day when Mate 40 was released, a mobile phone was sent to Apple's Asia Pacific headquarters. Cook and other executives also made a video call at the first time. How is it? Can it be disassembled? Cook urged. The engineer shook his head and said, it's not easy to disassemble. I feel that Huawei must have used some special packaging technology. If you disassemble it by force, it will definitely break. Cook thought for a while and said, let's disassemble it by force, to see the structure inside. When Huawei announced Xiangxin 100, it said it was a BO cell chip. But what exactly is this thing? It is the first in the world, and no one knows. And Huawei has not applied for a patent, so no one knows. Even now, Huawei has not applied for relevant patents. Cook and others don't understand that this thing has been classified as a national defense secret, and it is impossible to make it public again. Therefore, it is impossible to obtain relevant technical information in a short period of time. The only way is to start with the Xiangxin 100 that has been released, analyze it through reverse engineering, and see if it can be studied out. The engineer did not say more, and started to dismantle it directly. The first method is to melt the outer metal at high temperature. The temperature is heated to more than 1000 degrees before the outer shell metal melts. But the chip inside has also turned into gray. The second method is to use a machine tool to mill and grind off the metal shell layer by layer. This is another delicate job. After a few hours, the internal structure was barely polished out. You can see the Xiangxin 100 packaged inside, as well as the integrated GPU and other structures. Hurry up and test it. Cook ordered immediately. But facing Xiangxin 100, Apple's engineers were a little at a loss. After checking under a microscope, the chip itself was also packaged. Continue to polish, but after grinding off the outer layer of the package, some dark viscous liquid actually flowed out. Then, the chip was scrapped. Liquid? How can it be liquid? Is this imitating cell fluid? Cook said in surprise. Hurry up and test the composition of this liquid. After a long time of testing, the engineer with a headache finally tested what this thing is. It seems to be nanoparticles of thermal hydrocarbonized C. The engineer said. Cook frowned, and after listening to the engineer's explanation, he realized that this is a relatively new material that has been discovered not long ago. But other than that, there is nothing inside the chip. At this point, Cook has understood something and said, okay, no need to test it anymore. After that, he cut off the video directly. Guanghu Village. Zhou Yang has returned to the research institute. Mr. Zhao, the sales of Mate 40 are very good. General Manager Yu also sent a Weibo saying that the shipment volume exceeded 500,000 units on the first day, and the shipment volume is being increased. Li Xiaoyu picked up important domestic news and told Zhou Yang. Li Xiaoyu has a task, which is to collect some domestic and even international news, and tell Zhou Yang, after sorting it out every day. Oh, not bad. Zhou Yang nodded slightly, and didn't take it seriously. Let alone 500,000 units. Even if they sold millions or tens of millions of units a day, Zhou Yang wouldn't care. Li Xiaoyu said again, by the way, Mr. Zhao, after the release of Mate 40, I saw a lot of disassembly content about Xiangxin 100 on the internet. Will this leak the technology of Xiangxin 100? Leak? Zhou Yang looked at Li Xiaoyu with a smile and said, you will understand when I say this. When Apple releases A14, isn't it afraid that others will disassemble its chip and directly reverse it? What kind of internal structure is it? Just look at it with an electron microscope. There are all kinds of instruments in the laboratory. But the key is, even if you really spend a lot of effort to figure out its internal principles and structure, can you produce it? Li Xiaoyu was stunned and showed an enlightened expression. Get it? Even if I announce the technical principles of Xiangxin 100 now, can they produce it? I think too much about them. Zhou Yang smiled contemptuously. This thing is actually like a nuclear bomb. The manufacturing principle is written in the physics textbook, but can you make it? If you can't make it, what's the use of knowing it? So imitation, reverse engineering, etc. don't exist at all. After speaking, Zhou Yang's attention was placed on the things in front of him. Li Bingxuan and his team were busy working. A basically assembled aircraft engine was in front of Zhou Yang. Chapter 79 Test run successfully. With all the information about WS, Li Bingxuan himself had participated in the establishment and preliminary research of WS, and was very familiar with the entire project. But the most critical thing was the completion of the preparation of high-strength crystalline steel. That's right, with Zhu Chen's efforts, the third generation, which was also the third generation of crystalline steel that Zhou Yang had envisioned, had been prepared in the laboratory, and the next step would be the industrial mass production design stage. The small blast furnace that had been built long ago outside the institute was finally ready for use. Mr. Zhao, it's assembled. Li Bingxuan came over and said, we have done the last inspection and found no problems. At this point, Li Bingxuan was also very excited. The production of WS was finally solved in his hands. Then let's test it, Zhou Yang said. Li Bingxuan nodded vigorously. The next step was the key. It was relatively easy to replace the original key materials with high-strength crystalline steel, but no one knew whether the high-strength crystalline steel could meet the process requirements. If the test run failed, it would be a devastating disaster. Li Ziyu, who was standing behind Zhou Yang, said softly, Mr. Zhao, we are going to test drive. Should we talk to the higher-ups about this? Apart from anything else, if Gao Jianjun and his team knew that they were going to test drive here, they would definitely come to see it. Zhou Yang handed over a pair of noise-isolating headphones and said, no need. We don't know if it will succeed yet. It won't be too late to notify them after it succeeds. Although I believe it will succeed, there is still a chance. As he said that, Zhou Yang put on the headphones and nodded to Li Bingxuan to signal that they could start. Clear the area. Inject fuel. Li Bingxuan ordered loudly. The engineers on the scene also became busy nervously. The fuel injection is complete. Okay. Li Bingxuan glanced at Zhou Yang and gritted his teeth and shouted, drive. The ignition device started, and the aircraft carrier codenamed Eagle 1 burst into a huge roar. A red torrent gushed out from the nozzle, and the huge noise swept across the entire test site. The system is working well. Corning shouted excitedly. The engineers on the scene cheered excitedly. The successful ignition is the first step. Li Bingxuan also secretly waved his fist vigorously and glanced at Zhou Yang. Zhou Yang looked calm. Mr. Zhao is still calm, Li Bingxuan said secretly. He felt that the successful ignition was probably within Zhou Yang's expectations, so there was nothing to be excited about. Li Bingxuan said, proceed to the next step and increase the thrust. As the engine began to exert force, the tail flow ejected from the nozzle began to change color and turned light blue. This was a sign of sufficient combustion and stable thrust. Then, as the thrust continued to increase, the tail flow continued to lengthen, and the air behind was burned to a blur. The test bench, where the engine was fixed, also made a tooth-grinding metal distortion sound. This was because the engine thrust was too large and reacted on the test bench. The thrust data is out. Corning shouted. How much? Li Bingxuan asked hurriedly. Corning said, the data collected now is 121 kilonewtons. Good. Li Bingxuan excitedly waved his fist. Zhou Yang also nodded secretly. The thrust of 121 kilonewtons was originally the design indicator of WS. The Eagle 1 in front of us uses the design drawings of WS. The only difference is the replacement of key internal materials. The replacement of these materials enhances the durability of the engine, not its design indicators. The strength of the design indicators is related to the overall design of the engine. Turn on the afterburner. Li Bingxuan said again. The design indicator of WS is that it can reach 121 kilonewtons, or 12 tons of thrust, without afterburner and in full thrust state, and it can reach a maximum thrust of 18 tons after afterburner. This data is comparable to the data of the F-119 engine on the F-22 of the United States, and even exceeds it. The only difference is that the F-119 has a longer lifespan, reaching 8,000 to 12,000 hours. As for WS, the finished product of Zion Aircraft Corporation can only barely reach 2000 hours 2000 and 10,000. This is a huge gap in materials. When the afterburner is turned on, a blue torrent is ejected from the back of the engine. In the afterburner state, the fuel consumption is amazing. It is no exaggeration to say that what is sprayed backwards is no longer the tail flame, but aviation fuel. However, when the afterburner is turned on, the damage to the engine is also great. Theoretically, the aircraft can only use afterburner for 2 or 3 minutes at most in the sky. If it is used too much, it will cause irreversible damage to the engine. With Lee Bing-Sun's order, the engine below burst into a louder roar. The sound echoed in the test field, and the whole mountain seemed to resonate. Outside the research institute. Squad leader, why do I feel that the mountain seems to be shaking? Is it an earthquake? A patrolling soldier said to the squad leader. The squad leader also felt it, and thought about it and said, don't talk nonsense, maybe it's an experiment. Do your job well, and don't worry about things that you shouldn't worry about. At this moment, a hurried voice suddenly came from the squad leader's walkie-talkie. Squad 2, the satellite has found that there is an abnormal target in the 391 area. You are the closest. Go and check it out. Keep communication open at all times. Yes. The squad leader's face changed, and he immediately shouted, everyone, target 391 area, set off. A team of 8 people moved quickly, and when they got close, the squad leader waved his hand. Everyone immediately lay down and hid on their own. They were all well trained. The squad leader took out a telescope and observed the target area. At the same time, a man in a grass green camouflage suit was lying quietly in the bushes. He was a foreign white man, holding a high-definition telescope in his hand, looking in the direction of the research institute. From time to time, the white man would stop and write something in the notebook in front of him. A simple sketch of the periphery of the research institute was drawn on the notebook, with the positions of the guards and the patrol routes of the patrol team marked on it. Perhaps he was very confident in his camouflage ability, and the white man did not notice that the second squad had come 200 meters away from him. 200 meters away, the squad leader searched carefully and locked the white man in the bushes. The bastard is hiding quite well. The squad leader cursed and turned back and said, at 1 o'clock, 200 meters away, Deputy Lee, you take Gangzi and the other 3, cut off his back, and wait for my order. Deputy Lee led 3 soldiers and retreated quickly. With the help of the terrain cover, they quickly outflanked the white man from behind. A minute and a half later, Deputy Lee was in position. Action. Capture them alive, and if they counterattack, resolutely kill them. The squad leader gave the order coldly. The 3 soldiers around him couldn't help but tighten their weapons. But they still followed the squad leader and rushed out without hesitation. At a distance of 200 meters, when they were crawling to 100 meters left, the squad leader stood up and sprinted forward like a gust of wind. Fuck, we are exposed. The white man in the bushes was frightened when he saw 4 soldiers suddenly appearing in front of him. He stood up and ran, but when he turned around, he found that 4 soldiers had appeared behind him. In an instant, the 8 soldiers surrounded the white man. Don't move. 8 guns were pointed at the white man at the same time. The white man's knees softened, and he knelt on the ground, raised his hands and shouted, I surrender. Don't kill me. Chapter 80, Half an Hour of Strength. Inside the institute, the experiment was still going on. After the afterburner was turned on, the thrust data kept rising. 170, 178. Kang Ning shouted excitedly, it has reached the maximum thrust. Li Bingsun also excitedly recovered his fist and immediately said, hold it, turn off the afterburner in 2 minutes. 2 minutes of afterburner is enough. Zhou Yang waved his hand and said, don't do it for 2 minutes, just keep it in afterburner mode and keep driving. Li Bingsun was shocked and said hurriedly, the engine will be damaged that way. Zhou Yang said, this is an experiment. Of course, we have to try our best to detect where the limit is. If it is damaged, it will be damaged. First, see where the limit of its afterburner mode is, and then you can assemble another one and directly conduct the endurance test to see if it can reach the design life of 10,000 hours. Li Bingsun opened his mouth and said nothing more. Zhou Yang said it easily. It would cost a lot of money to assemble an engine. It was just like the Wanghu Village Institute, which didn't care about money and could build it as much as possible. Okay, let's continue. I want to see how long it can last in the afterburner state, Lee Bingsun said. In other words, this is testing the limit of high-strength crystal steel. The experiment continued, and the personnel on site were temporarily evacuated. This kind of extreme test is still very dangerous. It would be a pity if it exploded. In a blink of an eye, 5 minutes passed. According to common sense, in the afterburner state, 5 minutes will cause irreversible damage to the engine. However, Lee Bingsun glanced at Zhou Yang, who was unmoved and did not stop the experiment. Zhou Yang has spoken, so just do it. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. The temperature of the entire test site has risen to 40 or 50 degrees, and the tail nozzle of the engine has also burned red. Half an hour. Lee Bingsun swallowed his saliva and his eyes were a little straight. Corning shouted from below, "Chief Engineer Lee, the fuel is running low." In the afterburner state, the engine can burn nearly 1 ton of aviation fuel in 1 minute, and the WS engine uses high-grade aviation kerosene, which is more expensive. In just 30 minutes, it has burned 200,000 or 300,000. The key is that it consumes too much fuel. This time, we didn't prepare so much aviation kerosene. There is an oil depot outside, but it's too late to refill it now. Stop! Lee Bingsun shouted hurriedly. Only Zhou Yang dared to do a 30-minute afterburner test. The roar of the engine gradually stopped. Lee Bingsun went down to the test site as soon as possible and took Corning and others to check. Zhou Yang took off his headphones and said, "Let's go." The afterburner state is equivalent to driving the engine to death under extreme conditions, just like you drive a car and violently step on the first gear to 6,000 RPM. In this case, the engine has not exploded in 30 minutes, which is enough to explain everything. This engine is considered a success. Zhou Yang felt that he could move on to the next step, which is the particle thruster. Chen Ruoyan found Zhou Yang and said, "Mr. Zhou, a spy was found outside." Spy? Zhou Yang was stunned, but he didn't care too much. He said, "Then the safety of the institute is fine, right?" Chen Ruoyan nodded. She didn't plan to tell Zhou Yang at first, but she would definitely strengthen the security of the institute in the future. She was afraid that Zhou Yang would ask about it, so she decided to tell Zhou Yang. But seeing Zhou Yang's reaction, he was also very calm. Chen Ruoyan also breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Mr. Zhou, don't worry, the safety of the institute will not be a problem." That's good. Such small matters of security must be left to professionals. As for the appearance of spies in the institute, it was also within Zhou Yang's expectations. The emergence of Lungsan batteries and Jiangxin 100 will definitely attract a certain amount of attention. The previous airport assassination incident showed that the hostile country had locked on Zhou Yang, and it was reasonable to find the institute again. These reconnaissance satellites all over the sky are no joke. The only thing you can do is to strengthen security so that you can only watch and worry. The next day, a group of people hurriedly arrived at the institute. Li Xianshu, Gao Jianjun, and some accompanying personnel. "Mr. Zhou, has the research been going well during this period?" Li Xianshu asked with a smile. "Very good." Zhou Yang glanced at the people behind him and said, "You are well informed. Just after the test run yesterday, people came here. It can be said that speed is of the essence." Li Xianshu laughed dryly. Gao Jianjun next to him said, "You burn dozens of tons of aviation kerosene every day. If we still don't know what's going on, then the news is too delayed. How is it? Was the engine test run successful?" Speaking of which, when supporting Zhou Yang to develop the engine, the country did not expect Zhou Yang to produce results so quickly, but it has only been a short time, and the test run has already started. The speed is extraordinary. Zhou Yang nodded and said, "It can be considered a success. It happens that they are checking the damage today. Let's go and take a look together." "Damage?" Li Xianshu was stunned. "Was the engine damaged?" Zhou Yang said, "Yesterday I asked them to drive the afterburner for 30 minutes. It is estimated that it will cause some damage to the engine." Cough cough cough. The people following Gao Jianjun suddenly coughed. 30 minutes of afterburner, are you kidding me? Such a long time of afterburner, it's not necessarily damaged, but it's already scrapped. Zhou Yang looked at the few people. The leader was a middle-aged man with grey hair on his temples. Who are these people? Zhou Yang hurriedly said, look, I forgot to introduce. Mr. Zhao, these are engineers from Zion Aircraft Industry Corporation. They are responsible for the WS project. This is the project leader, Yuan Haifeng, Engineer Yuan. Zion Aircraft Industry Corporation. The WS project is being promoted by them. So that's how it is. Then welcome. Zhou Yang smiled and shook hands with Yuan Haifeng. Yuan Haifeng had never seen Zhou Yang or even heard of him, but he knew that Zhou Yang's identity was not ordinary because even Li Xianshu and Zhou Yang were polite to Zhou Yang and didn't dare to do anything rash. But what Zhou Yang said just now, running Afterburner for 30 minutes, still made Yuan Haifeng feel a little uncomfortable and said, Mr. Zhao, it's unlikely that this aero engine runs Afterburner for 30 minutes. This was already a very tactful statement, just short of pointing at Zhou Yang's nose and saying that you are faking it. Zhou Yang was not angry either. He smiled and said, whether it is true or not, Engineer Yuan, we will know after we have seen it. By the way, General Gao, has the aviation kerosene been arranged? Zhou Yang asked again. Gao Jianjin is from the General Assembly Department. In theory, the allocation of aviation kerosene is still under his jurisdiction. But these are all trivial matters, and they will not be handled by Gao Jianjin anyway. Gao Jianjin smiled and said, we are already on the way. We will pull 2,000 tons for you first. If it is not enough, we will talk about it later. As he spoke, the group also came to the previous test site. In the test site, Yuan Haifeng and others saw the tubular aircraft engine on the test bench at a glance. Judging from the shape, it is exactly the same as their WS. And under the aircraft engine, there are still many people busy. Li Bingsun. Yuan Haifeng's eyes locked on a person in the center. Li Bingsun also felt something in his heart. He turned his head and looked over. He immediately saw Yuan Haifeng and gritted his teeth and said, Yuan Haifeng. Chapter 81 Half-year mass production. Li Bingsun got off the test bench and walked over quickly. Why are you here? Li Bingsun asked in a bad tone. Zhou Yang was surprised. It seemed that the two not only knew each other, but also had some grudges. Yuan Haifeng looked at the aero engine in front and said, is this the aero engine you made? How come it is exactly the same as ours? When you left Zion Aircraft Industrial Corporation, you kept saying that you would make your own aero engine. Why are you copying ours now? Li Xianshu was about to persuade him, but Zhou Yang shook his head at him. Obviously, this was a matter between the two of them. Li Bingsun said, yes, this is a replica of your WS project, but we used brand new materials. It can be said that except for the appearance, the inside is completely different. As for what you said about imitation, let me tell you, this is just the beginning. Next, I will design a brand new engine that is comparable to the F-135 of the United States. No, an engine that is stronger than the F-135 will show you. The F-135 is the most advanced engine announced by the United States and the most powerful engine in the world. Yuan Haifeng snorted. Everyone can brag, but the key is to be able to make it. I heard that you guys drove the engine for 30 minutes yesterday. What happened? The engine is broken, right? Broken? Li Bingsun snorted and shouted. Corning, go, add fuel and test drive. Okay, I want to see how you are different. Yuan Haifeng was also sharp-tongued. Zhou Yang said, let's go up there. Li Xianshu and Gao Jianjin nodded with a smile and followed Zhou Yang to the top. Mr. Zhao, there will be an air show on the 10th of next month. Can this engine be unveiled? Gao Jianjin suddenly asked. Zhou Yang looked at Gao Jianjin strangely. This WS made of high-strength crystal steel has just been assembled and has not been tested in detail. After all, this thing is an aircraft engine, which is related to the safety of fighter jets or the lives of pilots. It must be tested for a long time. It can only be put on the plane after it is 100% sure of safety and reliability. Moreover, after it is put on the plane, there will be a long period of actual machine testing, and then it will be finalized and produced. A few years is considered fast. You have to know that the engine used by F-22, F-119, is a product of the 1980s. This type of aircraft engine, a model, can be used to death. But since Zhou Yang asked this, he must have his reasons. As for what the reason was, Zhou Yang was too lazy to ask, and thought for a while and said, I don't think the problem is big, even if it is on the actual machine, but I dare not guarantee it for you. The WS engine has been developed by the country for more than 10 years. The theoretical problem is not big, but the material can't keep up. Zhou Yang is very confident about the durability of high-strength crystal steel. Zhou Yang nodded slightly, and said nothing more, looking down. Below, Yuan Haifeng brought several of his engineers to help debug directly. Engineer Yuan, the materials here seem to be really different. An engineer whispered to Yuan Haifeng. Yuan Haifeng himself also found that it must be as Li Bingxuan said, a brand new material was used, but he would not believe it without seeing the actual test results. Okay, clear the field. Start. With an order, the engine was ignited again, making a huge roar. Zhou Yang's eyes lit up. It was a great success to be able to ignite the engine successfully. Li Bingxuan looked at Yuan Haifeng proudly and said, increase the thrust and turn on the afterburner. Kang Ling knew a little about the grudge between his master and Yuan Haifeng, and he also wanted to let Yuan Haifeng and others know how powerful the Eagle One was. He immediately began to increase the thrust, and after reaching the maximum thrust, he directly turned on the afterburner. In an instant, the roar became violent. People who were close could feel the roar of the engine. The sound waves resonated under their feet. Great. Zhou Yang stood up excitedly, very excited. How is it? Li Bingxuan asked arrogantly. Yuan Haifeng curled his lips and said in a deep voice, it's only been a short time, it's still early. Time passed. 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and then 10 minutes. At 10 minutes, Yuan Haifeng's face had changed slightly. Zhou Yang, who was beside Zhou Yang, was even more excited. 10 minutes of afterburner could already explain a lot of things. Continue. Li Bingxuan gritted his teeth and said, Corning, today I want to test the limits of this engine. Fortunately, 100 tons of aviation kerosene were urgently transferred from the oil depot yesterday, otherwise there would be no way to test it. Yuan Haifeng's expression has changed again and again. The engineers behind him were all in disbelief. How could it be? It's been 15 minutes. Under normal circumstances, the engine should have had problems long ago. 15 minutes of afterburner is already terrifying. It is no exaggeration to say that, if an engine is really run like this, after landing, the engine will be 100% scrapped. It will stop in the air, or explode and disintegrate. Moreover, with the amount of oil in the engine, it is estimated that it is not enough to run afterburner for 15 minutes. Now, the Eagle One has been running afterburner for 15 minutes. From the outside, the engine is still running very stably. They didn't really run afterburner for 30 minutes yesterday. What kind of materials did they use? How can they withstand it? Soon, the time has exceeded 30 minutes. Li Bingxuan did not order to stop, and the test continued. Zhou Yang was surprised and asked, is this high-strength crystal steel so powerful? Zhou Yang knew that the Eagle One in front of him had no structural difference from the WS engine. The only difference was the material of the core components. Zhou Yang nodded. In addition to its high strength, the biggest feature of high-strength crystal steel is its stable structure and durability. By the way, has the third generation of high-strength crystal steel been completed? Li Xianshu suddenly asked. The engine in front of him has been solved, which means that high-strength crystal steel has also been completed. Zhou Yang said, yes, it has been prepared. The next step is to solve the problem of mass production. Academician Zhu and others are pushing forward. Li Xianshu's eyes lit up and said, there are so many places where this thing can be used. Tank armor, ship decks, and even aircraft carrier decks and fighter skins can all be used. If this is really mass produced, it would be great. Zhou Yang also hurriedly said, Mr. Zhao, how long do you think it will take to solve the problem of mass production? Once this thing is mass produced, it will be like a universal metal, which will greatly improve weapons and equipment. Zhou Yang thought about it seriously and said, it will probably be the middle of next year. So fast? Zhou Yang was stunned. It only took half a year to solve the mass production problem. How fast? But think about it, Zhou Yang helped Bide solve the mass production of looms and batteries in less than 2 months, and Xianx in 100, which took only a few months. It doesn't seem incredible to solve the mass production problem of high-strength crystalline steel in half a year. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 80 to the honor you deserve. Zhou Yang nodded. The mature technical data is here. It is already very slow to solve the mass production problem in half a year. In fact, Zhou Yang thinks that 3 or 4 months is about right. And it is so slow. A large part of the reason is because of the particularity of steel production. The equipment in the steel plant is a big thing, and there are many difficulties to overcome. Li Xianshu murmured. Half a year to solve the mass production. Mr. Zhao, what scale of mass production is it? Zhou Yang thought for a while and said, tens of millions of tons. How much? Li Xianshu looked at Zhou Yang in disbelief. Shouldn't the output of this kind of special steel be low? Of course, with the current domestic steel scale, an annual output of tens of millions of tons is at most a medium to large steel plant, not a large steel plant. But even so, it is amazing. Gao Jianjun was also shocked and said, millions of tons. Mr. Zhao, you are not kidding, are you? Zhou Yang said, I don't have the time to joke with you, so the preliminary work can actually be prepared, such as the site selection of the steel plant. A steel plant with a capacity of tens of millions of tons must occupy at least 20 square kilometers and have at least nearly 10,000 employees. If it is to be mass produced in half a year, it is necessary to start planning now. Gao Jianjun nodded solemnly and said, okay, I will arrange this matter and I will ensure that I will not hold you back. As he spoke, the engine below suddenly made an abnormal sound. Stop it quickly. Li Bingxuan's face changed, and he shouted hurriedly. The engine slowly stopped. It can be clearly seen that the tail end of the engine has been deformed to a certain extent. This engine is most likely scrapped. However, Yuan Heifeng did not laugh out loud, but asked blankly, how long has it been? Someone next to him said, about 45 minutes. In the afterburner state, it has been maintained for 45 minutes before the engine has problems. How is this possible? Yuan Heifeng muttered to himself. This kind of durability is simply abnormal. What materials did you use? Yuan Heifeng rushed up and asked Li Bingxuan. Li Bingxuan was full of pride. The 45-minute boost state was beyond his expectations. Looking up at the observation room, Li Bingxuan said, the main material inside is the high-strength crystal steel developed by Mr. Zhao. How about it? Isn't it amazing? Yuan Heifeng nodded frantically. This is more than amazing. It is abnormal. By the way, you said that this high-strength crystal steel was developed by Mr. Zhao. Is it true? Yuan Heifeng asked. Zhou Yang was so young, he thought Zhou Yang was a manager. Li Bingxuan couldn't guess what Yuan Heifeng was thinking, and said, Mr. Yuan, please be polite to Mr. Zhao. Mr. Zhao is the greatest scientist I have ever met. Do you know Lingson batteries and Chiangxin 100? Yuan Heifeng nodded blankly. Of course, he knew these two hottest black technologies. That was developed by Mr. Zhao. Li Bingxuan said. Yuan Heifeng opened his mouth, so wide that he could fit a fist in it, and muttered, how is this possible? Batteries, chips, special steels, the span of this research is too big. They all say cross-border, but this cross-border is too amazing. At this time, Zhou Yang and Gao Jianjun also came over. Engineer Yuan, what do you think? Gao Jianjun asked with a smile. Yuan Heifeng came back to his senses, but ignored Gao Jianjun, and came to Zhou Yang and hurriedly said, Mr. Zhao, I heard from Li Bingxuan that high-strength crystalline steel was developed by you. Can this material be given to us at Zion Aircraft Industry Corporation for use? The country is not weak in engine design and theoretical research. Even now, there are still many design drawings thrown there to collect dust. It's not that they don't want to do it, but the materials are not up to standard, and they can't be made. And not only aviation engines, Zion Aircraft Industry Corporation has many research projects, such as civilian engines and helicopter engines, which are all trapped by material problems, and have not been able to make breakthroughs. If we get high-strength crystalline steel, all problems will not be problems. How can Yuan Heifeng not be excited? Zhou Yang smiled and said, Engineer Yuan, what's wrong with that? Now that the high-strength crystalline steel has finished the laboratory preparation stage, it will be mass-produced in the next 6 months at most. When the production volume is up, you can use it however you want. Mass production? What, is it going to be mass-produced? Yuan Haifeng was stunned. Suddenly, he felt like he had woken up, and the world had changed, and he had entered the future. He just knew about this incredible material, and it was going to be mass-produced. Zhou Yang said, how about this, Engineer Li, you take Engineer Yuan to see Academician Zhu. Maybe we can cooperate with Zion Aircraft Corporation in the future. Particle thrusters are not small projects. They must cooperate with leading enterprises like Zion Aircraft Corporation. Li Bingxuan glanced at Yuan Haifeng unhappily and said, why are you still standing there? Come with me. After seeing off a few people, Zhou Yang took Li Xianshu and the others to the office. Mr. Zhao, what I just said, that air show, can you attend it? Gao Jianjun asked again. Why not? Zhou Yang said subconsciously, and then he felt something was wrong, and asked curiously, you said you want me to participate? Zhou Yang thought Gao Jianjun asked if Eagle One could participate in the exhibition. Gao Jianjun smiled and nodded, saying, yes, you want you to participate. Zhou Yang was surprised and said, aren't the higher-ups afraid that my identity will be exposed? Now Zhou Yang has been targeted by hostile forces, assassinations are coming, and even spies have appeared outside the institute. Li Xianshu said, no, of course the higher-ups are afraid, but they think that you shouldn't be so obscure. A great man of the country should also enjoy the treatment that a great man of the country deserves. In the past, there were always people saying that researchers should be obscure all their lives, dedicate themselves to the country, and only enjoy honor after they die. But that's not right. They have made so many contributions to the country, and they should enjoy the highest honor and treatment. But in the past, the country was poor and weak, and we were constrained by realistic conditions, so we couldn't give them the honor they deserved. But it's different now. The country is strong, and not afraid of any challenges. Why should these people who have made great contributions to the country hide their identities and remain obscure? Your greatness should be recorded in history, and should be known to all citizens, so that they will remember it forever. Zhou Yang looked at Li Xianshu blankly. There was an emotion in his heart, erupting like a flood and volcano. At this moment, Zhou Yang thought of his parents, who had been obscure all their lives, and dedicated their lives to the country. Although they had no regrets, Zhou Yang sometimes really felt it was not worth it for them. But now, Zhou Yang felt that the country had not forgotten them. Okay. Zhou Yang nodded vigorously. Chapter 83 Invitation. Behind the institute, there is a cypress forest, which is very out of place in the entire institute. But here, it is heavily guarded. Mr. Zhao went in. Chen Royan asked. The two soldiers nodded. Chen Royan sighed and walked into the woods. Deep in the woods, there are two graves. They are the graves of Zhou Yang's parents. At this time, Zhou Yang stood quietly in front of the two graves. Chen Royan did not disturb Zhou Yang. She bowed to the two graves first, and then stood quietly in the distance. After a while, Zhou Yang turned around, and saw Chen Royan. He was stunned and said, why are you here? Is there something wrong? Chen Royan shook his head, took out a white handkerchief from his arms, and handed it over. Zhou Yang's eyes were a little wet and red. Zhou Yang didn't take it, and wiped away the tears from his eyes, saying, there aren't many people who use handkerchiefs these days. Chen Royan said, my mother embroidered it for me. She said it was blessed by a temple to keep me safe, so she asked me to carry it with me all the time. Zhou Yang walked out and said, by the way, New Year's Day is coming soon. Chen Royan nodded. Okay, I'll give you 2 days off, and you can go home to visit. Zhou Yang said. Chen Royan hurriedly shook her head and said, no, I usually don't go home on New Year's Day. And people like Chen Royan, let alone New Year's Day, may not be able to go home even for the new year. Zhou Yang asked, I haven't asked yet, where are you from? CS City. Chen Royan said. Zhou Yang said, that's not far away. Okay, it's decided. I'll give you 2 days off, so you can go home, and get together, and celebrate the new year. After that, Zhou Yang murmured to himself, and it's not just you, Xiao, but also academicians Zhu, Engineerly and others. They should all take a vacation. Research is research, and those who need to rest should still rest. Chen Ruoyan wanted to say something else, but Zhou Yang said with a stern face, I'm the head of the institute, and I have the final say. Chen Ruoyan smiled bitterly and said, okay then. After a pause, Chen Ruoyan asked again, what about you? Chen Ruoyan knew that Zhou Yang no longer had any relatives. Me. Zhou Yang said, I still have things to do. Chen Ruoyan said, Mr. Zhao, you just said that we should combine work and rest. How about this, you go back with me to celebrate New Year's Day? Go back with you? Zhou Yang glanced at Chen Ruoyan and said speechlessly, are you afraid that something will happen to me? Even when you take a holiday, you have to take me with you to watch over me. Chen Ruoyan smiled and said, of course, I dare not relax your safety at all. Okay, will your family agree? Zhou Yang hesitated. Chen Ruoyan said, why not? It's our honor that you are willing to come. This, okay. Zhou Yang nodded. Chen Ruoyan smiled, stepped back 2 steps, and stood behind Zhou Yang. By the way, how many people are there in your family? I need to prepare gifts in advance. Zhou Yang asked. Since he was visiting her, he must have gifts. And in Zhou Yang's heart, Chen Ruoyan was not only his bodyguard, but also his girlfriend. Going to his girlfriend's house for the holidays, gifts are even more important. For this reason, Zhou Yang specifically asked Li Xiao to help him prepare some gifts. Although buying in person would be more thoughtful, Zhou Yang was busy all day, so he didn't have the time to tell Li Xiao about his request, so he left it to her. In a flash, the New Year's Day holiday came. On the morning of the 1st, Zhou Yang got in the car, and Chen Ruoyan drove Zhou Yang to his hometown. There was only one car around, but Zhou Yang felt that there must be security in the dark. After the last assassination, the security work around Zhou Yang had reached a perverted level. Although it didn't reach the point where they had to clear the area in advance, it wasn't far behind. VIP is leaving. Falcon 1, pay attention. Falcon received. Following. High in the sky, a military helicopter was hovering. The driver's attention was on the car below. The cabin was also opened, one on the left and one on the right. 2 snipers were waiting in full battle array, and at the same time, there were observers observing the situation below through high precision telescopes. Zhou Yang didn't know about these security measures. An hour and a half later, Zhou Yang arrived at his destination. It was an ordinary village in the countryside of CS City. There aren't many cars on the road today. Zhou Yang got off the car and muttered. Chen Ruoyan smiled secretly. It wasn't that there weren't many cars, but that someone had specially cleaned it up. This was a 2-story building located on the edge of the village. There was a large field on the left-hand side of the door, and a small river opposite. There were 2 osmanthus trees planted in the yard, with lush branches and leaves. A BMW 3 Series was parked on the small open space in front of the courtyard gate. It seemed that there were already guests. Zhou Yang took a deep breath and went to the trunk to take out the gifts. They were all prepared by Li Xiao. Zhou Yang didn't know exactly what was prepared. Chen Ruoyan didn't have many people in her family. Her parents were all there, and she had an older sister who was already married, and then she had a little niece. Let me take it. Chen Ruoyan saw Zhou Yang taking the gift, and didn't say anything. She stepped forward to take it. Zhou Yang said, forget it. It doesn't make sense for the host to carry the gift. As he said that, he followed Chen Ruoyan into the house. Aunt. In the yard, a little girl of 7 or 8 was skipping rope. When she saw Chen Ruoyan coming in, she shouted in surprise, and came to greet her. Tang Tang. Chen Ruoyan picked up the girl. The girl was intimate with Chen Ruoyan for a few times, and immediately shouted, Grandpa and Grandma, Aunt is back, and she brought her boyfriend. Chen Ruoyan's face instantly turned red, and she hurriedly shouted, Tang Tang, what are you talking about? This is my leader. The girl asked with big eyes, Aunt, what is a leader? Okay, you are still playing dumb with me. Chen Ruoyan was so angry that she squeaked the girl. At this time, hearing the movement outside, several people came out of the house. It was Chen Ruoyan's parents, as well as his eldest sister and eldest brother-in-law. Ruoyan, why are you back? Chen Ruoyan's eldest sister, Chen Ruoxi, said in surprise. Motherly Gizzy hurriedly came to greet and hugged Chen Royan excitedly. Chen Royan's father, Chen Tao, was excited for a moment, then he snorted coldly and said, "You still know how to come back? People who don't know would think you're dead outside. You old man, what nonsense are you talking about? My daughter finally came back. I'm happy if you're not happy." Li Gizzy scolded. After scolding, she looked at Zhou Yang, and her eyes lit up instantly. She hurriedly said, "Royan, who is this? Is he your boyfriend?" Chen Royan blushed again, secretly glanced at Zhou Yang, and saw that Zhou Yang didn't react much, so she hurriedly shook her head and said, "Mom, don't talk nonsense. This is Mr. Zhou, my leader." Zhou Yang also hurriedly said, "Hello, uncle and aunt. My name is Zhou Yang, Chen Royan's boyfriend." Li Gizzy smiled and said, "That's right. We are obviously friends. What leader or not, I know. Okay, Zhou, right. Come in and sit down." Chen Royan's pretty face flushed in anxiety. Although Zhou Yang felt a little embarrassed, he hadn't felt this kind of warmth for many years. Chapter 84. It's actually very simple. Enter the house. Zhou, right. Hello, my name is Zhangbo. Welcome to our home. Come, Tong Tong, call me uncle. Chen Royan's brother-in-law is a gentle middle-aged man. He greeted Zhou Yang with a smile. Chen Royan, who was standing next to him, turned pale. He already felt that it was inappropriate for his mother to call Zhou Yang Zhou. Now even his brother-in-law called him Zhou. This is Zhou Yang. Ask around the world, everyone will call him Mr. Zhou respectfully. Who dares to call him Zhou? Zhou Yang didn't seem to be angry at all. He also stood up and shook hands and said, "Hello." After that, Zhou Yang took out his gift and said, "Uncle and aunt, I'm sorry to bother you. This is the gift I bought for you. I don't know what you like. I bought it simply. I hope you like it. It's enough for you to come. Why bring a gift?" Li Gizzy said happily, glaring at Chen Royan, still stubborn, refusing to admit that he was her boyfriend, and now he came with a gift. Chen Royan wanted to find a crack in the ground to crawl into. She really regretted inviting Zhou Yang to her home. "Uncle Zhou, what's my gift? Can I see it?" Zhang Tong asked happily. His gift was a big box, heavy. "Open it." "Wow, it's a violin." Zhang Tong shouted in surprise. Zhou Yang said, "You seem to be learning the violin, so I bought a violin for you. Do you like it?" Zhang Tong nodded vigorously and said, "I like it. I like it very much." Zhangbo was shocked. Violins are not cheap. He picked it up and exclaimed again, "I remember this brand. It seems to be a pure handmade brand in Italy. There are not many violins produced in a year. One violin is worth at least hundreds of thousands. Zhou, this gift is too expensive. We can't accept it." Hundreds of thousands also shocked Chen Ruoxi and everyone present. Zhou Yang was also stunned. This violin was bought by Li Ziyu. He didn't know what he bought and how much he spent. Now that he has bought it, how can he return it? It's already been bought, so keep it. Tong Tong likes it too, Zhou Yang said. Zhang Tong also nodded vigorously. Zhangbo was about to say something else, but Chen Royan said, "Brother-in-law, since it's a gift from Mr. Zhou, you should keep it." "How can I feel so embarrassed?" Zhangbo was a little embarrassed. Li Gizzy said generously, "Since Tong Tong likes it, keep it. Anyway, we will be a family in the future. Why should we be polite?" The word family made Chen Royan cough violently, and she hurriedly said, "Mom, I've said it 100 times. He is really not my boyfriend. He is my leader. It's New Year's Day. I invited him to my house to celebrate the holiday." I know. Li Gizzy obviously didn't listen, picked up a gift, opened it, and couldn't help but brighten up. It was a piece of Hetian Seed Jade Buddha amulet. Chen Tao also picked up his gift, opened it curiously, and found that it was an inkstone. He liked to practice calligraphy, and he also bought some inkstones, but the one in front of him was not an ordinary one. It was a fine product from an old mine, and judging from the color, it should be old. At least it was a collectible, and it was worth a lot of money. As for Chen Ruoxi, it was a set of foreign cosmetics, and Zhangbo, it was a mechanical watch. Zhangbo quickly estimated in his mind that the gift Zhou Yang gave was worth over $1 million. For a moment, Zhangbo was a little scared. Li Gizzy looked at Zhou Yang and was more and more satisfied. Not only was he rich, but he was also handsome. Zhou, what do you do? Have you bought a house? Do you have a car? Legacy asked. Mom. Chen Royan was anxious, stood up and said, I'll say it again. Mr. Zhou is not my boyfriend. He is my leader. Does the leader understand? Mom understands. Legacy seemed not to hear it and still looked at Zhou Yang intently. Chen Royan was so angry that she almost vomited blood, but she had no way to deal with it. Zhou Yang smiled and said, Auntie, I'm in R&D. I should have a house and a car. It's good to be in R&D. It's not tiring. Legacy said. Zhang Bo on the other side also asked curiously, Zhao, what research and development do you do? Zhou Yang hesitated for a moment. He couldn't say that he was studying mecha, artificial intelligence. Zhang Bo nodded and said, this direction is good, and it will be good for future development. Legacy smiled and said, then Zhao, you sit down. You old man, why are you standing there? Why don't you say a few words? I'm going to cook. After that, she dragged Chen Royan out, intending to interrogate her. Poor Chen Royan, the female special police officer who can fight dozens of people, has no way to deal with Legacy. Zhou Yang smiled secretly in his heart, and an idea flashed through his mind inexplicably. If he really married Chen Royan, it would be good. In that case, he would have a family again. But the next moment, Zhou Yang gave up this idea. After all, this was just his unilateral idea. Who knows what Chen Royan thinks? Maybe in Chen Royan's heart, he is just a leader. Chen Tao is not good at speaking. After chatting with Zhou Yang for a while, he stopped talking. Zhang Bo was very interested in talking to Zhou Yang. As they talked, Zhou Yang learned that Zhang Bo was also engaged in R&D and was an engineer at a company called Zhou Electromechanical. The food was ready, and Chen Ruoxi came over to invite everyone to eat. At this time, Zhang Bo suddenly received a call. What? It's cracked. How could it be? What's the situation? Zhang Bo answered the phone and his expression changed drastically. What's wrong? Chen Ruoxi asked. Zhang Bo hung up the phone and said, wife, I may have to go back to the company. Go back to the company, now. Your company is in SZ, thousands of kilometers away. Going back now, what a joke. Chen Ruoxi shouted. Zhang Bo said, I don't want to, but the project I'm in charge of now has a big problem. The hydraulic pipe is cracked. This order is worth tens of millions. If I mess it up, I'm afraid I won't get my year-end bonus. But, Chen Ruoxi didn't know what to do. Zhang Tong hugged Zhang Bo's arm and said, Dad, please don't leave. Zhang Bo also looked reluctant, but if he didn't leave, it would be more troublesome. At this moment, Zhou Yang suddenly said, Brother Zhang, you said the hydraulic pipe is broken. What's the situation? Can you tell me, and see if I can solve it? You? Zhang Bo glanced at Zhou Yang, and thought that, since you are studying artificial intelligence and writing codes, I'm afraid that you will not understand my mechanical problems, even if I tell you. But after Zhou Yang asked, Zhang Bo still said, our company is engaged in transmission systems. We have received an order with high design requirements. One of the control pumps has a pressure of 2000 C, but the pump diameter can only be 2 inches. We tried several materials and all of them cracked. So we changed to nickel chromium alloy. It was fine when we first tested it, but it cracked again after hundreds of times of use. I see. Zhou Yang smiled and said, it's actually very simple. Chapter 85 I'm not good enough of you. Uncle, do you have any paper? Zhou Yang asked. Chen Tao took a piece of rice paper without knowing why, and stood behind Zhou Yang to check. Zhou Yang picked up a pen, and wrote a composition table on the rice paper. This is a proportion of the added element, and this is the production process. If there is no steel plant to help you customize it, you can directly use nickel aluminum high temperature alloy, and then use this method to process it, and you can also get the design indicators. Zhou Yang wrote down some processing methods. Zhang Bo looked at Zhou Yang blankly, deeply doubting that Zhou Yang wrote it randomly. Will this work? Zhang Bo said. Chen Ruoxi said, whether it works or not, you will know if you try it. Anyway, I won't let you go back now. Zhang Bo was in a dilemma, and was about to argue again, but Chen Royan next to him said, brother-in-law, try it, believe Mr. Zhao. After that, Chen Royan approached Zhou Yang again. and whispered in his ear, "Mr. Zhao, do you need to keep these things you wrote confidential?" Zhou Yang shook his head. It was just a simple high-strength alloy material. Why should it be kept confidential? This. Zhang Bo hesitated for a moment, took a photo, and sent it to his colleagues. "Okay, let's eat quickly. Even if you really want to go back, you have to finish eating first." Li Gizhi came over to greet him. Zhang Bo deliberately lagged behind, pulled Chen Royan, and whispered, "Royan, isn't this Zhao our computer scientist? How come he knows about metal materials? Is what he wrote reliable?" Chen Royan was overwhelmed when she heard Zhang Bo call Zhou Yang Zhao. She gritted her teeth and said, "It's Mr. Zhao. Mr. Zhao, brother-in-law. If you call him Zhao again, I will be angry. I have said it 100 times. Don't you listen? He is my leader." Zhang Bo said nonchalantly, "What leader or not? When you get married, you will have the final say at home. At that time, won't he recognize me as his brother-in-law?" Chen Royan was so angry that she laughed. "By the way, tell me quickly whether what Zhao wrote is reliable or not. Does he still understand this stuff?" Zhang Bo asked. Chen Royan gritted her teeth and said, "Just you sit with confidence. If he is not reliable, then there is no reliable person in this world. Let a national scientist solve your process problems, and you still question it?" The food was very ordinary, all home cooked, but Zhou Yang felt very cordial. He had not eaten home cooked food for many years. After sitting down, Chen Tao directly opened a bottle of Shiansilin and asked, "Zhao, can you drink?" Chen Royan was about to stop him, but Zhou Yang had already said, "Uncle." Chen Royan looked at Zhou Yang doubtfully. He had never seen Zhou Yang drink, no matter who he was eating with. "Okay, as a man, it's nothing to say that he can't drink." Chen Tao took a 2-liang cup and directly filled it for Zhou Yang. Seeing that Zhang Bo was still looking at his mobile phone, Chen Tao shouted, "It's time to eat. Put down your mobile phones." Zhang Bo shuddered, muted the phone quickly, and put away his mobile phone. Chen Tao picked up the wine glass and said, "I'm very happy today. First, Royan is home, and second, Zhao is back. Zhao, on behalf of our whole family, I welcome you." Zhou Yang hurriedly picked up the wine glass and said thank you. Chen Tao sipped half of the glass, put it down, and said casually, "Royan, you are not young anymore. You are 26 this year. Hurry up and choose a date next year to get married with Zhao." With a click, the wooden chopsticks in Chen Royan's hand were directly broken by her. Zhou Yang almost spit out a mouthful of wine, turned his head and coughed violently. "Damn old man, drinking can't stop you." Li Gizhi scolded, and hurriedly came up to pat Zhou Yang on the back. "Auntie, I'm fine." Zhou Yang looked up and glanced at Chen Royan. Chen Royan happened to look over, her eyes full of apology and uneasiness, and faintly, it seemed that there was a little expectation. Zhou Yang didn't eat very well during this meal. He drank a lot of wine, and after one glass, he had another. He drank and drank, until he was unconscious. "You old man, he is so young, who told you to force him to drink?" Li Gizhi scolded again. Chen Tao retorted, "As a man, what's wrong with getting drunk? I'll take care of him." Chen Royan stood up, picked up Zhou Yang, and walked out of the restaurant. Zhang Bo shuddered and said, "Zhao looks good, but I'm afraid he will be bullied by Royan in the future." They all knew Royan's strength. When Zhou Yang woke up again, it was already dark. When he touched his hand, Zhou Yang suddenly felt a hand. Turning his head, he saw Chen Royan lying next to him. As soon as he touched the hand, Chen Royan opened his eyes reflexively, quickly stood up, and entered a state of alert. "Mr. Zhao, you are awake. Do you want some water?" Chen Royan asked hurriedly. Zhou Yang nodded, took the water cup, and drank a little, then asked, "What time is it?" Chen Royan said, "It's almost 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock at night." Zhou Yang was surprised. "Have I slept for so long?" Chen Royan had turned on the light. Zhou Yang looked around, and saw a lot of feminine things. He immediately reacted and said, "Is this your room?" "Sorry, I slept on your bed." "It's okay." Chen Royan shook her head and asked again, "Mr. Zhao, do you feel okay? Do you want a doctor to come and check you out?" If something happened to him in his own home after drinking, Chen Royan would really be dead. Zhou Yang shook his head and said, "It's okay, I just feel a little dizzy." Chen Royan hurriedly said, then lie down for a while. I'll be next to you. Call me if you need anything. Zhou Yang lay down and was about to talk, but he felt dizzy and fell asleep again. Chen Royan didn't go to bed again, but sat on the sofa chair opposite, looking at Zhou Yang quietly. It's a pity that I'm not worthy of you. A low sigh was heard in the darkness. The next morning, Zhou Yang got up. Zhao, get up. Legacy immediately prepared a toothbrush, clean towels and other things for Zhou Yang. Well, thank you, auntie. Zhou Yang thanked her, and a warm feeling surged in his heart. Zhao. Zhangbo rushed into the bathroom and hugged Zhou Yang in a big hug. Not far away, Chen Royan was almost scared silly, and she wanted to rush over and kick Zhangbo away. Zhao, you are really amazing. The thing you gave me was successful. There was no leakage, not a single leak. Zhangbo said excitedly, wishing he could hug Zhou Yang and kiss him. Zhou Yang smiled and said, it's good if it succeeds. Zhangbo said, how do you think I should thank you? Give you a commission. I'll go talk to our leader right away. Zhou Yang hurriedly held Zhangbo and said, brother Zhang, no need. It's not a big deal. Legacy said, why don't you want it? Zhao, you are stupid. This money is not from your brother-in-law, but from their company. Zhangbo, you have to ask for more. You have tens of millions of orders. Zhao has helped you so much. You should ask for 100,000 yuan at least. Zhangbo hung his head. Zhou Yang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Chapter 86, Twists and Turns. Zhou Yang stayed at Chen's house for a day and was ready to leave. On the way back, Chen Royan drove silently. Zhou Yang looked out the window and suddenly asked after a while, Royan, if I say I want to marry you, would you agree? The car suddenly turned its head, then braked suddenly, and stopped in the middle of the road. High in the sky. Something happened. Hurry up, act. The driver shouted frantically in the communication channel. Then the helicopter dived and landed quickly. In front and behind the car, several off-road vehicles rushed out at the same time, speeding over and stopping in front of the car. Dozens of fully armed soldiers with guns rushed over quickly. Establish a defense line. A major leading the team shouted loudly. Dozens of soldiers immediately established the first defense line around the car. The wind was blowing wildly overhead, and the helicopter also lowered its altitude and hovered over the car, with the 23mm machine gun pod staring at it. The major stepped forward and opened the car door immediately. Zhou Yang covered his head and hid it. In the driver's seat, Chen Royan was completely shocked. Mr. Zhao, are you okay? The major asked hurriedly. In the distance, a doctor carrying a first aid kit on an off-road vehicle had already rushed over. Zhou Yang waved his hand and said, it's okay. Then he looked at Chen Royan and asked, Royan, are you okay? Chen Royan nodded blankly, still staring at Zhou Yang. Zhou Yang was picked up by the backup car. Chen Royan stayed at the scene to deal with the scene. The phone rang. It was Han Haining calling. As soon as the call was connected, Han Haining began to roar, Chen Royan, what the hell are you doing? Twice. This is the second time. Can you still do it? If not, get back here. After scolding for 5 minutes, Han Haining stopped and asked, tell me, what happened? Chen Royan was silent for a while and slowly said, he said he wanted to marry me. What did he say? Damn it. Han Haining on the other end of the phone burst into a swear word and was stunned. After 10 full seconds, Han Haining lowered his voice and asked, Chen Royan, you mean, Mr. Zhao said he wants to marry you? Yeah. Chen Royan said blankly. Then did you agree? Han Haining asked hurriedly. Chen Royan said, no. You're crazy. You actually don't agree to such a good thing. Is your brain filled with water? How old are you? You're 26, my good girl. In a few years, you will become an old maid. Then I'll see who is willing to marry you. Mr. Zhao is willing to marry you, but you actually refused. This is Mr. Zhao, Chen Royan. You should go home and worship him quickly. If Mr. Zhao likes you, your ancestral graves will be filled with smoke. If I were a woman and 30 years younger, I would rush to marry him, but you actually refused. You made me so angry. Chen Royan bit her lower lip and said, I didn't say I didn't want to. It's just that he said it suddenly, and I didn't react. I didn't have time to say anything. What? You didn't refuse? I said that no woman can refuse a young talent like Mr. Zhao, a great man of the country. Han Haining exclaimed again and laughed. Okay, Mr. Zhao is willing to marry you. That's great news. Chen Royan, our Special Intelligence Bureau 6th is your mother's home. When you become rich in the future, you can't forget us, remember? Chen Royan was a little amused. Han Haining said again, okay, I approve this matter. From now on, I will give you a vacation. You accompany Mr. Zhao to prepare for the wedding, and I will let Liu Jun take over the security matters. After saying that, he hung up the phone directly. Chen Royan was left standing there in a daze, with a complicated look in her eyes. At this time, Zhou Yang had returned to the institute. After a few hours, the door of the office was pushed open, and a beautiful figure came in quietly. It was Chen Royan. The two looked at each other. Zhou Yang smiled bitterly and said, Chen Royan, even if you want to reject me, you don't have to react so much. You almost drove the car into the ditch. Chen Royan gritted her teeth, raised her head, and said, I didn't say no, it's just that you said that suddenly, I didn't react. Zhou Yang was stunned, and said in surprise, you agree? Chen Royan nodded gently. This female spy who can fight more than a dozen people by herself now reveals the shyness of a little woman. Zhou Yang stood up excitedly, stepped forward, and gently embraced Chen Royan in his arms. Chen Royan did not refuse. Her head rested on Zhou Yang's chest. Her pretty face flushed. After a while, Chen Royan said, Mr. Zhao, although you are of high status, I'm not so casual. You can marry me, but you must hold a grand wedding for me. By the way, you still need a proposal ceremony. Okay. Zhou Yang nodded vigorously, and then said, then you still call me Mr. Zhao. What's wrong with calling you Mr. Zhao? You are my husband. Chen Royan hugged Zhou Yang tightly and said shyly. In the next few days, Zhou Yang received several blessing calls. They were all from senior executives, congratulating Zhou Yang on finding true love. And Li Xianshu came over specially to ask Zhou Yang when he planned to hold the wedding and what he was going to do. In the end, he asked someone to calculate a good date and set it on August 26th this year. Mr. Zhao, you don't have to worry about the wedding. I will leave it to someone to do it. I guarantee you will be satisfied. When Li Xianshu left, he patted his chest and assured Zhou Yang, as if he was completing a political task. Zhou Yang was a little amused. He actually wanted a simple wedding, but he thought about it and felt that he was treating Chen Royan unfairly. Chen Royan deserves a grand wedding that all girls will envy. On January 8th, Zhou Yang took a special plane to SZ. After the last incident, the country was no longer confident that Zhou Yang would take civil aviation again. They directly arranged a special plane for Zhou Yang, the most luxurious Gulfstream G700, and built an airport near the institute to facilitate Zhou Yang's flight. The plane taxied and landed on the dedicated runway of SZ Airport. Zhou Yang took Chen Royan off the plane. After confirming their relationship, their feelings heated up sharply. A special car took Zhou Yang away and stayed in an elegant villa. By the way, at Suiyu, please invite Mr. Yu to dinner. Zhou Yang said. Since he came to SZ, he had to meet with Yu Changhong and have dinner together. Mr. Zhao. Yu Changhong looked a little excited when he saw Zhou Yang. The two exchanged pleasantries and sat down in the private garden at the back to chat. It seems that your flagship phone was launched on Christmas. How is it selling? Zhou Yang asked. This is the world's first mobile phone equipped with Xianxin 100. Speaking of Mate 40, Yu Changhong sighed and said, it sells well, but there are constant twists and turns. Oh, why? Zhou Yang was surprised. On the second day of our release, Apple cut prices across the board, and the price cut was 1,000 yuan. It was obvious that they wanted to start a price war with us. Yu Changhong said, and then laughed. Unfortunately, they made a mistake. I didn't expect that. Even if they cut prices, they couldn't sell more than us. Chapter 87 Sanctions. M40 was first released on Christmas Day and was a huge hit. On the same day, 500,000 units were shipped across all platforms. Although there was a slight drop on the second day, 300,000 units were still shipped. In the first week, the total shipments exceeded 1 million units. In contrast, Fruit reduced the price of all its products by 1,000 yuan, but the sales did not increase significantly. In other words, Fruit's strategy of using price cuts to hit the sales of M40 was a complete failure. Moreover, it is easy for fruit to reduce prices, but it is difficult to raise them back, so this price cut is almost a permanent price cut. Isn't that good? Zhou Yang said. Why is Yu Chenghang still suffering from setbacks when the products are selling so well? Yu Chenghang said, the price cut is at most a small trick of fruit to disgust us. Seeing that the price cut did not achieve the expected effect, fruit started to use big tricks. Zhou Yang also became interested. He wanted to hear what big tricks fruit could use. The first move is that fruit has unilaterally issued a notice that any app manufacturer who wants to release an ISO version and enter the fruit market will not be allowed to enter the mobile phone market of any Huawei phone. If they are discovered, they will unilaterally cancel the authorization. Yu Chenghang said. An app is generally compatible with both Apple and Android systems, especially many games, which are separate versions. But now that Fruit has made this announcement, many manufacturers can only choose between Fruit and V. Either you log into ISO, or you don't log in, and lose all Fruit users. This is forcing software developers to stand in line. Zhou Yang said, this doesn't seem to have much impact on Android users. Even if all software does not log into your V market, users can download software from other application markets, and it is not an easy thing for Fruit to define it. Yu Chenghang nodded and said, that's the truth. But Fruit did this mainly to send a signal. That is, it has completely broken with our V, and we are incompatible with each other, and it has some real impact on our users. At least, there will definitely be some software vendors who choose to remove their applications from V's application market. And just like what Yu Chenghang said, Fruit did this not to really do something, but to send a signal. V, I'm going to fight blood. Anything else? Zhou Yang smiled and asked again. This kind of painless suppression is nothing at all. Yu Chenghang said, this is just the beginning. Under the promotion of Fruit, the Ministry of Commerce of the United States has reinitiated sanctions against us, and this time it is more serious than the last time. Not only chips, but also any company cannot conduct any business cooperation with us V without authorization. Zhou Yang raised his eyebrows and said in surprise, how could the United States issue such a serious ban? Is it lowering its status? This is equivalent to an all-round sanction on V. Any business activities of V in the United States will be restricted, and all of these products cannot use suppliers from the United States, not even a screw. A country, a superpower, is so shameless to sanction a company, or a private company. This will have a huge impact on the reputation of the United States government, and give people a sense of shamelessness. Imagine that if you can sanction V today, then you can sanction other companies tomorrow. Who would dare to do business in the United States? Yu Chenghang sighed and said, we have inquired through various channels. This time, the sanctions ban is not only pushed by Fruit, but also by Ying'er, Yingda, and even Maotong. The entire Wall Street is behind it. Fruit alone may not be able to shake the decision of the American government, but so many super large companies, behind them is the entire Wall Street, which concerns the interests of the entire Wall Street. With the power of Wall Street, it is still possible to push the American government. Is the impact serious? Zhou Yang asked. Yu Chenghang nodded and said, of course it is serious. The business in North America is all gone, and many of our products are facing the problem of changing suppliers. Especially mobile phones, which are highly integrated. This time the M40 is also a flagship, with all the configurations that can be installed. Many suppliers of lenses, motors, screens, and cables are from the United States. Now that the ban has been issued, all cooperation has been cut off. Fortunately, we prepared some goods in advance, otherwise we really couldn't hold on. There was no time to change suppliers, but some suppliers were not qualified, so it would still have a huge impact. Zhou Yang frowned. Although China is very strong, it is impossible to be strong in all aspects. Many products must use foreign products, and even if there are domestic products, they are not necessarily the best in the world. It's okay to focus on ordinary mobile phones, but as a flagship, it must be the best, and it is also the most affected by this ban. Yu Chenghang said, this incident has a great impact on the internet. Many netizens support us Huawei, but it has been affected and our mobile phone sales have dropped significantly. But in the meantime, an interesting thing happened, which unexpectedly made our mobile phone sales explode again. Oh, what happened? Zhou Yang asked. Yu Changhang smiled and said, "This happened last week. It's still a bit incredible to say. A week ago, a guy with the idea of Uncle Hedgehog posted a post on the website of the Z Country Hacker Alliance. The post was written like this. I have received the M40P that I ordered on the official website for Christmas. The phone is really well made and its performance is really amazing. However, I'm more curious about the chip Core 100. I have also watched some disassembly videos on the internet, but no one has successfully disassembled the Core 100. This is a bit regrettable, but there is nothing much to say. The confidentiality requirement is understandable. At this time, I suddenly had an idea, that is, can I install Win 10 on my mobile phone? Popularize a basic common sense. Android phones cannot install the Win system. It is not because of insufficient performance, but because of the different underlying architecture. Microsoft is x86 architecture, while mobile phones are basically ARM architecture. However, I remember that Mr. Yu said at the press conference that Core 100 uses a completely different architecture, but it is backward compatible with ARM and x86 architectures, and Mr. Yu personally demonstrated that Core 100 was installed on a notebook. In this case, is it possible to install the Microsoft system on a mobile phone? I tried, consulted a lot of information, and even asked a few of my old friends inside HiSilicon. Finally, I found a way to install it. Okay, without further ado, let's go straight to the test video. Then Uncle Hedgehog played a video, in which the original firmware of the phone was flashed, and then the Win 10 system was installed. Okay, the next step is the show operation. Uncle Hedgehog's voice appeared in the video. Core 100 is so powerful, and it has an integrated GPU. Of course it should be used to play games. In the video, Uncle Hedgehog downloaded a Cyberpunk 2077. Here, the game is downloaded. I don't know if we left a hole here for special adaptation or something. Win 10 can actually match the GPU of Core 100 and recognize it as an integrated graphics card. I think this may be related to V's next plan to put Core 100 on the PC platform. Preparations have been made in advance, so friends who want to use it should hurry up and get it. Otherwise they won't be able to use it when V is blocked. Okay, let's use a Type-C adapter, plug in the mouse and keyboard, and then wirelessly project the screen, and then the fun begins. In the video, Uncle Hedgehog played Cyberpunk 2077 very smoothly. So, why buy a 3090 or a high-performance computer? An M40P means you not only own a flagship phone, but also a high-performance PC. Now I feel that the M40P selling for more than 8,000 yuan is really a conscience price. After being reposted, this post set off the entire internet. Chapter 88 Prohibition of Sale. At first, this post was only circulated among hackers and many tech geeks. But soon, someone uploaded the relevant video to Bilibili. So far, it has been out of control. The on-demand volume of the first video on Bilibili has exceeded 5 million. More than a dozen related technology bloggers immediately followed up, and all kinds of exaggerated headlines were typed out. What do you need to pay only 8,800 yuan to own a flagship mobile phone, a PS5, and a supercomputer? Coincidentally, Cyberpunk 2077 was released, PS optimization was not good, and PC players could not afford 3090. The news that a mobile phone can play Cyberpunk 2077 was directly pushed to the hot list. On Douyin, it landed on the hot list. Many game anchors followed up at the first time, and began to live broadcast in this way. It was not until Uncle Hedgehog uploaded a full installation package that the popularity rose again. The full installation package circulated in major forums and the download volume exceeded hundreds of thousands. On Douyin, there was also a challenge of what your mobile phone can do. The art designer came and released a video of art rendering with the M40p of the system. It was super fast. In short, this mobile phone has been used in many ways. For ordinary consumers, a mobile phone with such powerful performance is equivalent to buying a computer, and it only costs more than 8,000 yuan. Rounding it off, it is like picking it up for free. Why not follow up quickly? The sales volume, which had been somewhat tired, has once again ushered in a big explosion. This was completely beyond V's expectations. Zhou Yang was also a little amused. He knew that V had a plan to adapt the Core 100 to various platforms. He asked, "Then how did you do it? Did you block this loophole?" From a technical point of view, it is actually very easy to block this loophole. Yu Changhang shook his head and said, "No, many consumers buy a phone to flash the system, and they will find that it is still a mobile phone after all, and they still have to find a way to flash it back. There are very few people who really treat their mobile phones as computers. So since it can increase sales, why not do it?" Zhou Yang smiled and said, "What are your plans for the sanctions on the fruit side?" Yu Changhang smiled bitterly and said, "What can we do? Let's just hold on for now." Zhou Yang thought about it and said, "How about this? I'll make a call for you." Yu Changhang was stunned. Although he didn't say it when he came here, he still had some ideas in his heart that he wanted to ask Zhou Yang for help. After all, Zhou Yang's status was there. If Zhou Yang was willing to help, it would definitely affect the attitude of the top management towards this matter. Zhou Yang took out his mobile phone and called Li Xianshu. After a few polite words, Zhou Yang asked, "Director Li, what are the higher-ups thinking about the fruit sanctions on V?" Li Xianshu did not expect Zhou Yang to ask about this, and said, "Did V come to you for help?" "Yes." Li Xianshu paused and said, "Actually, the higher-ups have been paying attention to this matter." This question was also answered at the press conference in the past few days, but the higher-ups meant that it is better not to get involved in commercial activities and increase friction. The meaning of this statement is very clear. At most, the higher-ups will support you, but it is unlikely that they will really do anything. Zhou Yang thought for a moment and said, "I understand the above approach, but this time, it was the American government that was shameless first. So should we let them bully us for no reason? I think we can use our actions to show that our company is not something that anyone can bully at will. I have been in a foreign country for a few years and have deeply understood one thing. If you are always kind, they will think you are easy to bully. Only when you resist and let them know how powerful you are, will they be afraid of you. It's okay to hide your shortcomings, but I think there is no need for our country to hide its shortcomings now. Our goal is to be the world's #1 power. To put it bluntly, we want to conquer the entire Earth and become the #1 on the blue planet. They hit us, we can't just laugh and do nothing. We have to fight back, and we have to hit harder. For example, just ban the sale of fruit." These words were said by Zhou Yang in front of Yu Changhang. After listening to them, Yu Changhang felt a surge of blood in his head and was so excited that he almost cried. For the second time in a row, V was sanctioned by a country. Yu Changhang felt so wronged. And now, if the country does something, it will be a real timely help. On the other end of the phone, Li Xianshu was silent for a moment and said, "I understand what you mean. I will convey it to the higher-ups." He hung up the phone. Yu Changhang gave Zhou Yang a thumbs up and said, "Ban the sale of fruit, Mr. Zhou, you are so domineering." Zhou Yang said, "Who told them to be shameless first?" Yu Changhang laughed and felt much better instantly. "Let's go fishing." Zhou Yang stood up and called, "Okay." Yu Changhang hurriedly followed. The Huawei incident was not a big deal for Zhou Yang. After he had said what he should say, Zhou Yang didn't care about it anymore. On January 10th, the air show began. The entire air show will last for 5 days. This time, there will be more than a dozen countries and hundreds of military enterprises participating in the exhibition. Moreover, although it is called an air show, it is not only about aviation weapons, but also a large number of army weapons, such as tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, etc. At 8 o'clock in the morning, Sun Chao, a reporter from Tixu Forum, arrived at the expo center early. 262, where are you? Sun Chao called his friend. Soon, the two met. 262, whose real name is Zhang Yifan, is a famous military blogger. Brother Sunday. The two met, exchanged pleasantries, and hurried to the entrance. "What do you think Zion Aircraft Corporation will release this time?" Sun Chao asked as they walked. Zhang Yifan said, "Who knows, but they have created momentum in advance, so it is obviously big news." "Do you think it will be the legendary H-20? As early as a few days ago, people who pay attention to military news noticed that Zion Aircraft Corporation began to create momentum, saying that they will release major products at this air show, which has attracted countless people's speculation and reverie. Moreover, the air show also regarded Zion Aircraft Corporation's press conference as the focus, and placed it in the first press conference after the opening ceremony, and the booths were all in the center. From this perspective, it can also be indirectly confirmed that Zion Aircraft Corporation is going to do something big. How is it possible? Sun Cheo shook his head and smiled. The two followed the crowd and entered the exhibition center. At this time, the spacious exhibition center was already filled with various high-tech weapons. Zhang Yifan's eyes immediately widened. "Don't worry, accompany me to watch the opening ceremony first," Sun Cheo said. Zhang Yifan said, "A bunch of leaders will give speeches at the opening ceremony. What's so good about it?" Sun Cheo shook the SLR in his arms and said, "Brother, I'm a reporter. I have an interview mission." Okay, accompany me first. Once the opening ceremony is over, it's just right to watch the press conference." Zhang Yifan nodded helplessly and had to follow. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89, Opening of the Air Show. The opening ceremony was scheduled to be held in the center of the exhibition. At 9 o'clock in the morning, the opening ceremony was held on time. "Please invite all the invited leaders to come on stage," the host announced loudly. At that moment, a group of people came out from the backstage. Li Xianshu, accompanied by Zhou Yang, walked at the front of the team. "Mr. Zhou, your seat." Li Xianshu led Zhou Yang to sit in the most central position. Below, the reporters who came to interview also started to take pictures. In an instant, the flashlights almost blinded people's eyes. Although Zhou Yang experienced this kind of scene for the first time, he was able to calm the situation and sat casually without feeling abrupt. At this time, the host also began to introduce the leaders. There were local leaders and leaders of the General Assembly Department. When it was Zhou Yang's turn, he just said, "Welcome to Academician Zhou Yang." Other than that, there was no introduction. Zhou Yang was stunned and asked Li Xianshu beside him, "When did I become an academician?" Li Xianshu smiled and said, "With your achievements, being an academician is too little." Zhou Yang knew that the higher-ups intended to let him show up at this air show and gradually let him step to the front and give him the status of an academician, which was not surprising. The hundreds of people invited to the stage heard the host's introduction, and there was some discussion. Zhang Yifan touched Sun Cheo and said, "This academician is so young, he looks only in his 20s. I remember that the youngest academician was almost 40 years old." Sun Cheo also said, "Zhou Yang, why haven't I heard of this name?" As he said that, he took out his mobile phone and searched for the name Zhou Yang, but there was no result. Strange, if he is an academician, at least there should be an encyclopedia. Sun Cheo looked at Zhou Yang sitting in the C position, raised his camera, and took 2 photos, and suddenly became interested in Zhou Yang. Sun Cheo also specially logged onto the website of the Chinese Academy of Sciences to look for information about Zhou Yang, but still couldn't find it. But in such a formal occasion, the host would definitely not introduce the wrong person. But the Chinese Academy of Sciences did not have any information about Zhou Yang as an academician. For a moment, Sun Cheo was a little confused. Similarly, not only Sun Cheo, but also many people noticed Zhou Yang. Dimilov was also in the crowd. When he saw Zhou Yang, he exclaimed, "Why is it him? Who is he?" Next to Dimilov, there was another person sitting, the person in charge of the negotiations who was resent by the Kremlin. That's right, after the collapse of the engine export talks last time, Dimilov was severely reprimanded by the Kremlin, and then demoted. The person in charge of the negotiations also became the newly sent Jeliwa. Dimilov frowned, lowered his voice, and said, "This person should be the culprit who caused our failure in this negotiation." "What?" Jeliwa exclaimed, and hurriedly said, "What's going on? Who is this person?" Jeliwa had just arrived not long ago, and didn't know much about the situation of this negotiation. But Dimilov had already used all kinds of connections to investigate all the intelligence about this transaction. Dimilov said slowly. Afterwards, I analyzed that the only explanation for the sudden unilateral termination of negotiations by country Z and the decision not to use our engines is that they really don't need them anymore, and their engines have already achieved a breakthrough. Although I think it is unlikely, we still asked our intelligence department to conduct a detailed investigation and mobilized many connections, and we really found some clues. It seems that country Z has launched a mysterious research and development project. All signs indicate that it is related to engines. And in the end, we got detailed intelligence from the CIA of country M. That's when I learned about this person's existence. Jelewa frowned. Dimilov talked for a long time, but he still didn't understand. Dimilov asked, do you know about the Lungsum battery and the Xiangxin 100 chip that has recently shocked the world? Jelewa nodded. Of course, he knew about this kind of major event that spread all over the world. Especially this negotiation. Jelewa was dissatisfied with country Z for developing the Lungsum battery and wanted to teach country Z a lesson, which led to a series of events afterwards. Dimilov said slowly, it was this man who developed the Lungsum battery and Xiangxin 100. What? Jelewa almost jumped up in shock and quickly lowered his voice, sat back, and said hurriedly, are you kidding? Wasn't the Lungsum battery developed by Bide? Dimilov smiled contemptuously and said, you believe this nonsense? Man, don't disbelieve it. The CIA has confirmed it. As far as I know, they even organized an assassination. Remember there was a news not long ago about the closure of the SZ airport for anti-terrorism exercises? It was an assassination organized by the CIA. Jelewa opened his mouth wide. He really couldn't imagine that scientific and technological achievements of the level of Lungsum batteries and Xiangxin 100 were all from the hands of one person. You know, any one of them, with the combined strength of a country, may not be able to be researched. And Zhou Yang, alone, developed two. By the way, you said that the engine is also related to him? Jelewa asked hurriedly again. Dimilov nodded and said, combining the intelligence we have collected, we can basically infer that Zhou Yang is in charge of this mysterious R&D project launched by Party Z. It is probably because of this reason that Party Z unilaterally stopped negotiations with us and placed the hope of breaking through the engine on him. But can he do it? Jelewa said. But as soon as he said this, Jelewa realized that if the Lungsum battery and Xiangxin 100 were really developed by Zhou Yang, then Zhou Yang definitely had the ability to handle the research of the engine. Damn it, what should we do then? Do we really have to give up this negotiation? Jelewa gritted his teeth. Dimilov didn't say anything. He didn't know what to do. At this time, Jelewa looked at Zhou Yang on the stage and suddenly said, why don't we kill him? If we kill him, we will be heroes of the country. Dimilov opened his mouth wide in an instant, looking at his companion in disbelief, speechless. What on earth was this guy thinking? Even if his head was kicked by a donkey, he couldn't think of such a ridiculous method. He also assassinated Zhou Yang. I'm afraid he would be sniped as soon as he approached. The opening ceremony was not long. Several leaders gave speeches, and it was over in an hour. The air show officially began. Zhou Yang and others had already left the venue. The host said loudly, please move outside the venue. There, in half an hour, Zion Aircraft Corporation will hold the first press conference of the air show. Hurry up. Zhang Yifan pulled Sun Chao and ran outside the venue. Since it is an air show, there must be airplanes. Outside the exhibition, there is a huge open space full of various airplanes. Some large press conferences will be held here. It's outside the venue, there's no doubt about it. It must be a fighter jet, and it may be the legendary H-20. I hope it's the H-20. We have been waiting for it for many years. Zhang Yifan was trembling with excitement. Chapter 90 Engine Breakthrough. Hundreds of people have gathered outside the expo. There are ordinary people who bought tickets to visit, as well as weapons manufacturers from various countries, and purchasing groups from various countries. This kind of press conference at an air show usually releases some new weapons, some of which can be ordered on the spot. Zhang Yifan and Sun Chao also squeezed to the front row with difficulty, looking forward to it. The exhibition booth has been set up on the scene. When the time came, the press conference started on time. The person who took the stage was an engineer from Zion Aircraft Industry Corporation, named Yang Junchang. After a brief opening speech, he introduced. Aviation engines have always been a long-standing problem that has plagued our country's fighter jets. The J-20 has taken to the sky, but it cannot have a qualified heart. Off the stage, Zhang Yifan was shocked and hurriedly said, "Has the WS made a breakthrough?" Yang Junchang mentioned the engine, so it is 90% likely that the next thing to be released will be the engine. And the most eye-catching engine project in the hands of Zion Aircraft Industry Corporation is undoubtedly the WS project. Sun Chao was also shocked and said, "It's impossible. How could this thing suddenly break through? If there is any result, there would be rumors long ago." Sometimes, the country will take the initiative to pass on some intelligence to the outside world, but it is not very obvious. For example, in a news report, a short interview may show that the engine of a fighter jet is not the same as before. Don't doubt it. The news that can be released is impossible to accidentally take the wrong picture. Since it is released, it is intentional. The WS project is really, as Yang Junchang said, it is a difficult problem. If there is hope of solving it, there will definitely be some action and send signals to the outside world, such as "I will succeed in the research soon, are you afraid?" or something like that. So Sun Chao doesn't believe that the WS project suddenly broke through. Zhang Yifan was so excited that he said, "Not necessarily. There is still one more in Wrongfully. Maybe it will break through. To be honest, I have been waiting for this day for many years." Aeron beams have always been a scientific and technological problem that has plagued the country. On the internet, people always talk about and ridicule them. Just as Yang Junchang said, the J-20 has already taken off, but the aero engine has not been solved. Yang Junchang said, "Please let me keep you in suspense here." As he said that, Yang Junchang waved his hand, and the large screen behind him opened to both sides, revealing a booth surrounded by red cloth. Everyone at the scene stretched their heads to see what was inside the red cloth. Zhang Yifan hurriedly said, "Look at the size. There is no way it can escape. It is the aero engine." Sun Chao was also excited, but still said, "What if it is just WS-10? On the stage, Yang Junchang said loudly, "Then next, please invite our WS-15 project leader, Chief Engineer Yuan Haifeng, Chief Engineer Li Bingsun, and Academician Zhou Yang, to reveal it to us together." Yang Junchang's words directly made the atmosphere at the scene extremely warm. Yang Junchang himself admitted that the engine to be released soon was the WS-15. "I said it. It is WS-15. It is WS-15. After so many years of anticipation, WS-15 is finally here." Zhang Yifan jumped excitedly. Sun Chao beside him was also very excited. His eyes became wet and red. At this time, Zhou Yang took the lead, followed by Yuan Haifeng and Li Bingsun, and walked onto the booth. Zhou Yang wanted to go to the back, but Yuan Haifeng and Li Bingsun disagreed, so Zhou Yang had no choice but to go to the front. There was warm applause at the scene. Yuan Haifeng and Li Bingsun waved in response at the first time. Zhou Yang thought about it, raised his hand, and waved twice. "Hey, why is it him?" Sun Chao was stunned. Zhang Yifan also saw Zhou Yang and hurriedly said, "Isn't this the academician Zhou Yang who sat in the center at the opening ceremony before? How did he become the person in charge of the WS project? I know Chief Engineer Yuan Haifeng. Zifei has always announced that he is in charge of the WS project. Who is this Chief Engineer Li, and how come this Zhou Yang has also become the project leader?" Zhang Yifan was full of question marks. Sun Chao was also full of doubts, and said, "And did you notice that Chief Engineer Yuan and Chief Engineer Li were walking behind, and Zhou Yang was walking in front? Generally, the core person in charge of a project would walk in front. Could it be that academician Zhou Yang is the real person in charge of the WS project? I don't know." Zhang Yifan shook his head, but he was extremely shocked in his heart, and said, "He is too young. Not only is he an academician, but he can also be in charge of the WS project. It's amazing." Countless flashes took pictures of Zhou Yang and the other two. This time, Zhou Yang was considered to have walked to the front. In the crowd, Dimilov's expression was extremely gloomy, and he gritted his teeth and said, "Sure enough, it was him. It was him who solved the WS project. Damn, how could it be so fast?" Jelewa was also dazed. Zhou Yang looked only in his 20s. How old was he? But he developed the Lungsan battery and Chiangxin 100. Now there is another WS project. Is this Einstein possessed? Zhou Yang came to the stage. There was a button on the stage. Press it, and the red cloth around him will fall off. You two, come together. Zhou Yang smiled. Yuan Haifeng and Li Bingxuan nodded and pressed the button together with Zhou Yang. The red cloth fell off, and a brand new aircraft engine appeared in front of everyone. The cheers at the scene instantly reached a peak. Zhou Yang also stood aside and applauded with everyone. An engine, like a star in the spotlight, attracted everyone's attention. After a full half minute, Yang Junchang introduced, "This is the latest WS-15 aircraft engine. Its intermediate thrust reaches 105 kilonewtons, and its afterburner thrust reaches 181 kilonewtons. Because of the application of new materials, the thrust-to-weight ratio reaches 11. Because of the application of new materials, its service life reaches 10,000 hours." Yang Junchang's last sentence once again set off the scene. Almost all the audience who were able to buy tickets to come in were military fans. They certainly knew the difficulties of WS and what 10,000 hours represented. 10,000 hours, my god, 10,000 hours, it's really solved. Zhang Yifan waved his arms and shouted excitedly, venting his inner excitement. Many military fans at the scene also burst into the same shout at the same time. 10,000 hours almost merged into a torrent, spreading throughout the entire press conference. As for those foreign weapons manufacturers and representatives of the purchasing group, their expressions were solemn. A lifespan of 10,000 hours, and being displayed at such a public air show, shows that country Z has solved the mass production problem and truly solved all the technical difficulties of WS-15. One less shackle is locking the dragon. Yang Junchang said, "I'm sorry I won't introduce the specific parameters in detail, but today, there is another reserved project, that is, the J-20 equipped with two of the latest WS-15 engines, which will fly over our press conference site under our witness." What? Did I hear it right? J-20? With the exclamations of the crowd, a huge roar broke through the sky. In the distance, a fighter plane like an eagle broke through the sky. Chapter 91 Super Performance of the J-20. Colonel Chang Lei is an ace pilot with 20 years of fighter flying experience. "Tell me how to fly," Chang Lei asked with a smile in the communication channel. An old voice came from the communication channel, saying, "Today is the day for the eagle to spread its wings and shine its sword. Chang Lei, you just show me your true ability and fly freely. Do you understand?" "Understood." Chang Lei put on an oxygen mask and looked down. Faintly, you can see the situation of the exhibition center below. For this display, the surrounding airspace of dozens of kilometers has been completely cleared. This stage is big enough. "Old buddy, let's start," Chang Lei whispered, and the fighter jet began to accelerate instantly. The exhibition center below. Hearing the huge roar, countless people at the scene burst into huge cheers. J-20. Zhang Yifan grabbed Sun Cheo's arm and waved it vigorously. Everyone looked up to the sky and saw a J-20 breaking through the air with a huge arrogance. "Vortex, it's a vortex, so cool," Zhang Yifan screamed. Then, everyone saw that, when it came to the top of the expo center, the J-20 began to pull up vertically. It was a true vertical super pull-up of almost 90 degrees. A huge roar resounded through the sky. Although it was very far away, a full 1,000 meters, it still made the ears of the people below hurt. Zhou Yang also covered his ears and smiled helplessly. It was flying too low. At this moment, a hand suddenly reached out. Zhou Yang looked back and saw that it was Chen Ruoyan, who handed over a pair of black earplugs. With a knowing smile, Zhou Yang took the earplugs and put them on, and then he felt much better. Vertical pull-up, this maneuver, awesome. At this moment, Zhang Yifan had to yell loudly to balance the air pressure on his eardrums so that his ears would not be unable to bear it. Sun Cheo was also excited, but at the same time, he also paid attention to some different places, saying, "The elevation angle is larger, the engine performance is stronger, the engine has been replaced, it has definitely been replaced." In the sky, the J-20 began its own performance, various difficult maneuvers, attracting cheers from below. Dimilov looked up at the fighter and murmured, "It's like a sci-fi fighter, it's so beautiful." Jelewa next to him was also full of emotion and said, "Yes, this maneuverability is too strong. In terms of aerodynamic design, J-20 dares to say that it is the second in the world, and no one dares to say that it is the first in the world. The strongest aerodynamic design brings incredible maneuverability. The only problem is the engine, which restrains this golden dragon. Now, the J-20, which has been replaced with a new engine, has finally made up for this last shortcoming. In the sky, in the cockpit of the J-20, Chang-Lei smiled and said, "It's not enough." He felt that the performance of the fighter has not been fully exerted. Thinking of this, Chang-Lei began to climb to a higher altitude. 3,000 meters. In the eyes of everyone underground, this J-20 has become very small. Fortunately, the sky was clear today, and the view was clear, so it was still very clear. Then, the J-20 began to accelerate. At this moment, the two WS-15 engines were able to explode with power. If it was a leisurely stroll before, now it was finally walking normally. Boom. An inverted bowl-shaped airflow suddenly appeared next to the J-20 fuselage. Sound barrier, breaking the sound barrier. Zhang Yifan screamed. The cheers at the scene reached the limit instantly. This is the first time that the J-20 has shown breaking the sound barrier in front of the public. You know, this is a supersonic cruise fighter, which can break the sound barrier in cruise mode. It took a full few seconds for the sound barrier to reach the ground. It was 3,000 meters away, but it still felt very loud. But no one complained. Everyone was excited and shouted. Chang-Lei controlled the fighter to climb, dragging a clearly visible sound barrier behind him, leaving a clearly visible trail of smoke in the air. It didn't stop until 4 or 5 kilometers. "We are just getting started." Chang-Lei laughed and said in the communication channel, "I'm turning on the afterburner." After that, he pushed the throttle to the bottom. Boom. The fighter in the air seemed to be kicked hard from behind and bounced out violently. The air in front of the fighter seemed to have really turned into a wall, torn and pierced by the fighter. The huge sonic boom cloud spread out. In just a moment, the J-20 disappeared from the sight of the people below. Zhang Yifan widened his eyes and murmured, "Is it turning on the afterburner? Otherwise, the speed would not increase so quickly, and it is already in the supersonic state." Sun Chao nodded blankly and said, "It should be." The next moment, a huge roar came down. A few seconds later, the fighter flew back again. This time, it was like a sharp arrow, cutting through the air, so fast that even people's eyes could not keep up. "It's definitely turning on the afterburner. It's too fierce." Zhang Yifan screamed. Sun Chao was also excited. The J-20 in afterburner mode can reach a speed of nearly twice the speed of sound, which is simply crazy. A few dozen seconds later, the J-20 that disappeared from view reappeared, still the same, with afterburner, and accelerated in a climbing state, like a sharp sword piercing the sky. Next, the J-20 maintained the afterburner state, and repeatedly flew over the heads of the crowd in various postures. Too strong. At this speed, even missiles can't catch up. This is the real strength of the J-20. It's awesome. Zhang Yifan shouted, and could only shout awesome again and again, to vent his inner excitement. Sun Chao noticed one thing and asked, "How many minutes has it been?" "What do you mean by how many minutes?" "It's in afterburner mode. It seems to have been 2 or 3 minutes. Sun Chao said, "Why is it still in afterburner mode? Isn't it said that afterburner mode cannot be used for more than 2 minutes? If it exceeds 5 minutes, it will cause irreversible damage to the engine." Zhang Yifan was shocked and said, "Yes, it seems to have been 2 minutes. My god, will the engine be damaged? Could it be that the pilot was too excited to fly and forgot? Are you kidding me? Who can fly this is not an ace pilot. Who would forget?" Sun Chao shook his head and said, "Unless the J-20 can withstand this kind of afterburner without too much damage." At this point, Sun Chao couldn't help trembling all over. The J-20 in afterburner mode is truly invincible in speed. It can be imagined that, if it faces an enemy aircraft head-on, the enemy will not be able to lock onto it. Even if it is locked on, the missiles launched cannot catch up with the J-20. Modern air combat is no longer the era of close-range dogfighting. Beyond visual range strikes, before you even see me, I will have already killed you with a missile in seconds. The J-20, which has the highest speed and can run afterburner for a long time, has incredible strike and penetration capabilities. It can be said that it is invincible. And all this is due to the powerful engine, which brings super performance. Sun Chao couldn't help but turn his head and glanced at Zhou Yang and the other two on the booth. These three are the real heroes, the heroes of the country. Chapter 92. Taking credit? In the air, the J-20 kept flying back and forth. All the people present were professionals, and soon, a large number of people noticed that the J-20 had been running for a very long time. It seems that 5 minutes have passed. Dimilov frowned and said, "Isn't the pilot afraid that the engine will be scrapped? At this low altitude, the airflow resistance is large, and it is even more difficult to reach the maximum speed. Turning on the afterburner has a greater impact on the engine. Under normal circumstances, running for dozens of seconds is already considered a long time. But the J-20 overhead has been running for a full 5 minutes since it started running. It is impossible that the pilot did not know that long-term afterburner would cause damage to the engine, but that the pilot was not worried at all." Dimilov was startled and hurriedly said, "They must have strengthened the internal materials and have higher strength. I remember that the host said before that WS-15 used brand new materials. This must be the case, otherwise they would not dare to run the afterburner for such a long time." Jelewa looked at Dimilov blankly and after a while said, "In this case, wouldn't they want our engine even more? The design performance of AL-41 is not as good as WS-15. How could country Z, which has WS-15, still want AL-41? Come here to negotiate. What's the point of talking?" Dimilov smiled bitterly. He no longer thought about country Z not wanting AL-41 engine, but was thinking about what impact country Z would have on the world and country E after solving WS-15 and letting J-20 show its true strength. Overhead, J-20 slowed down, made its last low altitude pass, and disappeared from everyone's sight. It's not that Chang Lei didn't want to continue flying, but he was running out of fuel, and it burned more fuel in the afterburner state. If he continued to drive for 5 minutes, he might not be able to fly back. "Awesome!" Zhang Yifan shouted excitedly. Sun Chao had the same expression and said, "If WS-15 really has a lifespan of 10,000 hours as Zion Aircraft Industrial Corporation said, then it would be really awesome, but it should be true. Even if there is some water, it won't be too big. Just think about it, just looking at the pilots who dare to drive for 5 minutes, you can imagine how durable this engine is. The more durable the engine is, the longer its lifespan will be." The heated atmosphere at the scene took several minutes to calm down. Yang Junchang picked up the microphone and said loudly, "This is the true strength of the J-20 equipped with our 2 WS-15s from Zion Aircraft Corporation. Well, let us thank the 3 chief engineers of our WS project. It is their efforts that have enabled the WS-15 to be truly mass-produced. Please give them the warmest applause." The scene immediately rang out with blazing applause. Everyone knew what the breakthrough of WS-15 represented, and all this was all because of Zhou Yang and the other two. Zhou Yang smiled and clapped his hands, taking Yuan Haifeng and Li Bingxuan off the stage. The applause at the scene continued for a long time. Zhang Yifan's hands turned red from clapping, but he didn't stop yet, and said excitedly, "After so many years, Comrade Sun, we finally have our own aviation engine." Sun Chao's eyes were filled with tears. He could not forget the countless times he argued with people on the forum, and the sting of those cents saying that your engine is not good. Now, Sun Chao can proudly tell everyone that they also have their own engine, the strongest, the world's top engine. No, I have to find a place to write a notice and send it out to let everyone know about this. Sun Chao said hurriedly. Zhang Yifan smiled and said, "I'm still waiting for you to send out the notice. Look for yourself. There are so many mobile phones and cameras in the venue. The whole country has known about it for a long time." The popularity of the air show on the internet was not low, and the news that the J-20 appeared and was equipped with the latest WS-15 engine instantly set off the entire internet. All major news media and short videos are full of various reports. In particular, the video of the J-20 breaking the sound barrier and cutting through the sky with a sonic boom cloud shocked everyone who watched the video. Countless people burst into tears, and the comments below were all about the motherland being awesome, and I'm proud of the motherland. I hate not being there. The backbone of the country, the fighter jet of a great power, awesome. From now on, Whoever dares to say that our fighter engine is not good, I will fight him to the death. Various proud comments filled the comment area. The names of Zhou Yang, Yuan Haifeng, and Li Bingsun, the 3 developers of WS-15, also spread across the country through the internet in an instant and became known to countless people. I know Yuan Haifeng. He's an old engineer at Zion Aircraft Industry Corporation, and he's been in charge of the WS project. I searched for this Li Bingsun, and it seems he's an engineer at Liming, and he also came from Zion Aircraft Industry Corporation. He was in charge of the preliminary research of the WS project. The key is this Zhou Yang. Who exactly is he? I've never heard of him, and I can't find any information about him on the internet. And he's too young. He looks like he's only in his 20s. Could it be fake? The son of a big leader, deliberately trying to gild himself and grab the credit? It's possible. Think about it. He's a young man. Even if he's a genius, he's at best a doctorate. What can a doctorate do with this level of research? It's shameful. I was very happy about the breakthrough of WS-15, but now seeing this kind of thing, it's simply disgusting to death. It's just a human being trying to grab the credit, and the key is to grab the credit of old scientific researchers like Chief Engineer Yuan and Chief Engineer Li, who have worked hard and dedicated decades to the country. Chief Engineer Yuan and Chief Engineer Li are generous and don't say anything, but we can't help but say it. Expose him and let the people of the whole country know about this Zhou Yang and his ugly face. Yes, expose him, push him up, let more people see it. Countless people denounced, and some media who didn't know the truth led the rhythm. The reputation of Zhou Yang on the internet changed suddenly, and there were voices of condemnation and abuse everywhere. Zhou Yang didn't know this yet. After walking down the booth, Zhou Yang found that Yuan Haifeng and Li Bingsun were crying. Mr. Zhou, thank you. Yuan Haifeng and Li Bingsun turned around at the same time and bowed to Zhou Yang. If Zhou Yang hadn't developed high-strength crystal steel, I'm afraid they wouldn't be able to see this scene for many years. Zhou Yang hurriedly stopped the two and said, "You two, you are trying to shorten my life. I just did some small research and development and solved the material problem. You are the big contributors. Don't forget that the engine was designed from scratch by you." Yuan Haifeng wanted to say more. Zhou Yang hurriedly said, "Okay, the same thing. We are all contributing to the country, so what's the point of distinguishing between merit and no merit?" "Okay, Mr. Zhou said it well. Contributing to the country is what we should do. Talking about merit is vulgar," Li Bingsun said. Next, Zhou Yang did not stay at the air show. After the motorcade left, Zhou Yang suddenly said, "Ryan, isn't your sister in SZ? Do you want to visit her?" Zhang Bo worked for Zhou Electromechanical, whose headquarters is in SZ, and Chen Ruox's family also lives in SZ. Chen Ruoan thought about it and said, "Why don't I let my sister and her family come to the villa?" The first issue of visiting Chen Ruox's home is safety. Zhou Yang said, "How can that be? It doesn't make sense to visit someone and ask them to come to your home. Let's arrange it this way. Besides, I have other things to do while I'm looking for my brother-in-law." Zhou Yang learned about Zhou Electromechanical and found that it was the largest private enterprise in China that makes transmission systems. The transmission system problem of the Mecha is also a relatively important problem, and now we can start to solve it. Chapter 93: Honor Cannot Be Tarnished. Director Li, please take a look at these reports. Li Xianshu's secretary prepared some information for him. After reading it, Li Xianshu slammed the table and said angrily, "Nonsense, shameless, who did this? Who led the public opinion? Check it for me, find out, and deal with it seriously, and remove all these news reports." These reports were all about Zhou Yang, but there was not a single good word. In these reports, Zhou Yang has been described as a shameless villain with a deep background, relying on power to snatch the credit for the first flight of WS-15. How could Li Xianshu tolerate this? Others don't know, but doesn't he know that the key to the successful first flight of WS-15 is the high-strength crystal steel developed by Zhou Yang? How would Zhou Yang think of such a description? This time, the higher-ups deliberately pushed Zhou Yang to the front, so they let Zhou Yang show up at the air show, but it was such a result. Li Xianshu felt that he didn't even have the face to see Zhou Yang. Yes, the secretary didn't dare to neglect it, and went there quickly. On the same day, the General Administration of Press and Publication issued a document punishing all media that reported false news about Zhou Yang and strictly ordering them to make rectifications. All major mainstream news media, such as Taoxiao, were not spared and were all hit. Every media was trembling, seeing the strength of the state agency. Without a second thought, all reports were removed and all related content was rectified. All related videos on short video platforms such as Douyin were also blocked at the first time. In just a few hours, all false reports about Zhou Yang on the internet almost disappeared without a trace. The country's move was quick. However, those who were enthusiastically discussing the first flight of WS-15 on the internet and criticizing Zhou Yang for stealing the credit found that all reports about Zhou Yang were gone. All videos were taken off the shelves, and no reports were found when searching for Zhou Yang. What a fast speed, what a powerful background. Without a strong background, how can you take such credit? But we can't sit back and watch the meritorious people being wronged. We can't ban our voices. That's right. The more severe the ban, the more afraid they are. We have to make a louder voice and let everyone know. Let's go and swipe the comment area. Soon, some people appeared in the comment area of some mainstream media's key news and Douyin's hot videos, specifically swiping comments, saying that Zhou Yang took the credit. This matter was already a big deal, and with this, some people who didn't know about it before now know everything, and they are even more curious about who Zhou Yang is. Li Xianshu also paid attention to this trend. But this time, Li Xianshu didn't rush to take action. On the second day of the air show, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs held a routine press conference. Because the first flight of WS-15 yesterday attracted the attention of the world, at the beginning of the press conference, reporters immediately asked about WS-15. Spokesperson and Zhou Yang answered all questions in a formal manner, but they were all standard answers. At this time, a reporter suddenly stood up and asked, "I noticed that many media have reported on the 3 chief engineers of WS-15. Among them, academician Zhou Yang, who was less than 30 years old, became an academician and the chief engineer of the WS project. Many netizens are questioning this matter, thinking that Zhou Yang has robbed the credit of Chief Engineer Yuan and Chief Engineer Li. I wonder what you think about this matter." After the reporter asked, all the media looked over. In fact, many people also want to ask this question. Especially some foreign reporters. They can't say anything about WS-15 going into space. They can only envy and jealous, but they also pay attention to the scandal of WS developers robbing credit. Yes, in the eyes of many foreign reporters, this is a scandal. Some people wanted to ask questions, but the attitude of the General Administration of Press and Publication yesterday has made them see how strong Zhou Yang's background is. They didn't dare to ask for a while, thinking that they would ask after this matter has fermented thoroughly. But unexpectedly, there are really brave reporters who asked it. Zhou Yang glanced at the reporter who asked the question, gave an inexplicable smile, and then slowly said, "First of all, I want to clarify one thing, that is, all the reports about academician Zhou on the internet are false and untrue." Many reporters looked at each other. Zhou Yang's response can be regarded as the first official statement of the government on this matter. Zhou Yang continued, "Since this reporter mentioned academician Zhou, then here I just happen to reintroduce academician Zhou to everyone." After a pause, Zhou Yang said, "Academician Zhou Yang is an important scientist in our country. Regarding his situation, I cannot reveal too much due to the principle of confidentiality, but some research and development results have been decided to be made public after research and discussion by the superiors." Many reporters looked at each other. What does it mean that due to the principle of confidentiality, too much cannot be revealed? And what does it mean that some research and development results are made public? Does Zhou Yang have other research and development results? Zhou Yang said in a neither humble nor arrogant voice. During this period, some people have noticed that several technological difficulties in our country have been broken through, such as the Lungsan battery and Xiangxin 100. The Lungsan battery was successfully developed by academician Zhou. The Xiangxin 100 chip was also developed by academician Zhou, who completed the theoretical research of biomimicking cell chips and completed the following mass production work. Boom. As soon as Zhou Yang finished speaking, the scene exploded. All the reporters were stunned, their minds were blank. Lungsan batteries and Chiangxin 100 were actually developed by Zhou Yang. What a joke. Shouldn't such black technology be the result of research by a scientific research team of thousands or tens of thousands of people, which took many years to produce? But how old is Zhou Yang? Even if he has been engaged in research and development since elementary school, he probably can't complete the research and development of these two things. Not to mention the WS-15 project. No one dared to believe such words. But this is a routine government speech meeting. Every word Zhou Yang said, even every word, was said after careful consideration. Here, it represents the voice of the Z government. The government will never praise someone for nothing and tell lies. That is the only truth. Lungsan batteries and Chiangxin 100 were all developed by Zhou Yang. Zhou Yang's expression was serious, and he continued, Academician Zhou has made outstanding contributions to the development of science and technology in our country. He is a great man of the country. The government does not allow any form of slander and false reports against Academician Zhou. I advise some people with ulterior motives to stop your behavior. The honor obtained by Academician Zhou Yang cannot be tarnished. Many reporters noticed that Zhou Yang said the four words great man of the country. Ordinary scientists can't get such an evaluation. But if these research and development results were really completed by Zhou Yang, then Zhou Yang really deserves the evaluation of the great man of the country. Later today, the 7 o'clock news will have a special report on the outstanding contributions made by Academician Zhou Yang to my country's scientific research. If you have any questions, please pay attention to it. Zhou Yang said again, and then he announced the end of the speech meeting and slowly walked out of the speech hall. Chapter 94 Visit SZ Bin Zhao Community. A car slowly drove into the community and entered the underground garage. Chen Ruoyan looked outside until she heard a confirmation voice in the headset. Then she said, Zhou Yang, let's go down. Zhou Yang nodded and got out of the car with Chen Ruoyan. The basement was quiet, but Zhou Yang knew without even looking how many security personnel were hiding in the dark. The entire community was probably also controlled in advance. Chen Ruoyan picked up the gift and got into the elevator with Zhou Yang 1201. Chen Ruoyan knocked on the door, and the door opened. It was Chen Ruoxi who opened the door. When she saw Zhou Yang and the other person standing outside the door, she was stunned. Why are you here? Chen Ruoxi was pleasantly surprised. Hello, sister. Zhou Yang smiled. Chen Ruoyan also said, why, you are not welcome. Chen Ruoxi hurriedly asked someone to come and said, welcome, how can I not welcome you? Liao Zhang, Ruoyan and Zhao Zhao are here. Why don't you come out quickly? Aunt. Zhang Tong rushed out excitedly, hugged Chen Ruoyan first, then rushed to Zhou Yang and said, Uncle Zhao, where is my gift? This kid. Zhang Bo also came out and scolded, Zhao Zhao, when did you and Ruoyan come to SZ? Why didn't you tell us, so that we could pick you up? Chen Ruoyan said, we came the day before yesterday, and it's not very convenient for you to pick us up. What's inconvenient about this? By the way, where are you going to stay in SZ? Why don't you stay in a hotel? Stay at home. There is still a room. Chen Ruoxi said. Chen Ruoyan said, forget it, we have a place to stay. Zhang Bo asked the two to sit down, and then said, wife, don't cook, we'll go out to eat later, I'll reserve a table now. Zhou Yang hurriedly said, brother Zhang, it's better not to go out to eat, it's not convenient. If we go out to eat, we have to clear the place and set up control in advance, which is too troublesome. Chen Ruoyan hugged Chen Ruoxi's arm at the right time and said, that's right, let's eat at home. I want to eat the food I cook. This kid, okay, let's eat at home. Liao Zhang, go downstairs to buy vegetables. Chen Ruoxi smiled. Zhang Bo hurriedly picked up his clothes and went out. Sister, I'll help you. After Chen Ruoyan finished speaking, she whispered to Zhou Yang, don't go to the window. Zhou Yang was speechless, but still nodded, and asked Zhang Tong next to him, are you still practicing the violin? Yes, or I'll play a song for you. Zhang Tong said excitedly. Zhou Yang nodded. But Chen Ruoxi rushed out immediately and said hurriedly, don't. But Zhang Tong had already run to get the violin. Chen Ruoxi smiled bitterly, went back to the kitchen, and closed the sliding door. Zhou Yang was a little confused, but soon understood why Chen Ruoxi reacted like this. Zhang Tong's level was really not much different from beating cotton. After playing a song, Zhou Yang also broke out in a cold sweat. "Uncle, how did I play?" Zhang Tong asked. "Good." Zhou Yang nodded stiffly, and then said, "Tong Tong, your technique is not right. Look." Zhou Yang took the violin, took a deep breath, clamped it with his chin, and said, "It should be like this." Then the strings were pulled, and a melodious sound came out. Zhang Tong widened his eyes, and said in surprise, "Uncle, you can play the violin?" Even Chen Ruoxi and Chen Royan in the kitchen came out after hearing the sound, looking at Zhou Yang in disbelief. Zhou Yang played a few notes casually, put down the violin and said, "I can play a little, but I haven't played for several years, so I'm not very proficient." Chen Ruoxi said in surprise, "Zhao Zhao, you really can do everything." Chen Royan also looked incredible, not knowing that Zhou Yang could play the violin. "My mother can play, and I learned a little when I was a child," Zhou Yang said. Zhou Yang's parents are both intellectuals and versatile, especially his mother, who returned from studying in country E. Violin is nothing to her. After talking for a while, Zhang Bo opened the door and came in, carrying some cooked food in his hand, muttering, "Did some big leader come to inspect our community? I just met a neighbor on the 7th floor. He said that, when he went to pay the property fee, he found that the property had been replaced. He said it was some kind of control. It must be a big leader inspecting." Chen Ruoxi said, "Oh, not taking it seriously at all." Zhang Bo sat down and asked, "Zhao Zhao, have you decided when to get married?" Zhou Yang nodded and said, "August 26th of this year." "Oh, that's almost there, 8 months." After that, Zhang Bo touched Zhang Tong's head and said, "Tong Tong, in another 8 months, you can't call me uncle anymore. You have to call me uncle." Zhang Tong smiled and said, "I can call you uncle now." Chen Ruoxi arranged a large table of dishes, and before they were served, Zhang Bo received a call. Okay, tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, right? I will be there on time. By the way, do you need to bring anything else besides your resume?" Zhang Bo asked. After hanging up the phone, Zhang Bo looked a little excited. Zhou Yang was surprised and asked, "Brother Zhang, are you going to change jobs?" Zhang Bo nodded. Zhou Yang said, "Why did you change jobs when everything was going well? Isn't Zhou electromechanical pretty good? It seems that in the field of transmission systems in China, Zhou electromechanical is the best." Zhang Bo sighed and said, "Don't mention it. It's good, but there are some things I dare not say until I leave. This factory has grown, and all kinds of troubles have come. When I first joined the factory, the whole factory was united, working hard on technology, and only thinking about how to make good products. In this way, step by step, we have become the leader in the industry. With more business and higher profits, all kinds of office politics and nepotism have come. By the way, the bonus you got for helping me solve that problem last time was also blacklisted. They said there was no such precedent in the factory. I was so angry that I ran to have a big quarrel with the leader, but it was useless, no matter how much I said. HMPH, I've seen through it. In the past 2 years, the factory management has been completely rotten. Those skilled people have basically left. Now the factory is just living off its old capital, but the old capital can only last for a few more years. If that's the case, it's better to leave early." Chen Ruoxi also said, "It's better to leave. The salary is not high, there are a lot of things to do, and I work overtime every day, but I don't see any overtime pay. By the way, Zhao Zhao, do you want to work overtime often?" Zhou Yang shook his head. No one dared to care about him if he didn't go to work for a day. "Brother Zhang, do you mean that the backbone technical personnel of Zhou electromechanical have almost left?" Zhou Yang asked. Zhang Bo nodded and said, "Almost, except for a few older ones. The younger ones have basically left." Zhou Yang frowned. He didn't care much about office politics and chaotic management. It was a common problem for large enterprises. For companies like Huawei and Tencent, it was even more serious. But as long as the core competitiveness remains unchanged, the problem is not big. What I'm afraid of is that Zhou electromechanical is like this. The core technical personnel are lost, and they rely on their previous achievements to live off their old capital. It seems that we can't ask Zhou Mechanical and Electrical for help anymore. Zhou Yang looked at Zhang Bo and suddenly had an idea. Since Zhou Mechanical and Electrical is not good enough, he might as well start his own business. Chapter 95. No one recognizes you, even if you post it. Thinking of this, Zhou Yang said, Brother Zhang, if there is a company that also plans to make transmission systems, can you recruit those skilled people you know? Zhang Bo looked at Zhou Yang strangely, not quite understanding what Zhou Yang meant, and said, which company? I don't think it's possible. They are doing well, and may not be willing to come. After that, Zhang Bo asked again, Zhao, which company are you talking about? I basically know all the companies in China that make traditional systems. Are you going to introduce me to a job? No, I have already found a new one, and will go for an interview tomorrow. Zhang Bo thought Zhou Yang was going to introduce him to a job. Zhou Yang shook his head and said, no, I have some spare money now, and I think the transmission industry is pretty good. How about I pay you, and you help me manage it, and you don't have to work for others, just be your own boss. They will be his relatives in the future, so it's only right for him to take care of them. Be your own boss? Zhang Bo widened his eyes. Chen Ruoxi beside him had a similar expression, but she quickly reacted and said happily, great news, Zhao, are you serious? Working for others is not as comfortable as being your own boss. Zhang Bo glared at Chen Ruoxi and said, you know nothing, this is running a business, what if it loses money? After that, he said to Zhou Yang, Zhao, I appreciate your kindness, but running a business is not playing house, and in the transmission system, if you do it small, you won't make much money, and if you want to make it big, the investment is huge. How big can it be? Chen Ruoxi asked in confusion. Zhang Bo said, it must be at least hundreds of millions. So many. Chen Ruoxi was shocked. Zhou Yang smiled and said, it's okay, I can still take out a few $100 million. Apart from anything else, Zhou Yang still has 9% of the shares of Matrix Energy, and what's even more amazing, is that after Matrix Energy successively acquired HiSilicon Kirin and Beidou, Zhou Yang's 9% of the shares have never been diluted. In other words, from 100 billion at the beginning to hundreds of billions now, Zhou Yang's shares will only become more and more valuable. Now, it is worth at least tens of billions. So Zhou Yang can really come up with 100 million. Zhang Bo and Chen Ruoxi opened their mouths at the same time, staring at Zhou Yang in a daze. Chen Ruoyan looked at Zhou Yang speechlessly, thinking that she knew he was rich, but there was no need to say it so directly. In Chen Ruoyan's opinion, Zhou Yang probably spends hundreds of billions of dollars every day, and acquires Biden Beidou with just one sentence. He has no concept of money, and thinks that a few $100 million is probably the same as a few dollars. Zhang Bo looked at Zhou Yang steadily and said, Zhao, what do you do? Aren't you working? Zhou Yang said that he was working in artificial intelligence. Zhang Bo thought that Zhou Yang was working in an internet company like him. At this moment, in the news broadcast on the TV next to him, the host suddenly said, next, it's a special documentary, The Great Man of the Country, Zhou Yang. The name Zhou Yang attracted the attention of Zhang Bo and Chen Ruoxi, and they turned their heads subconsciously to look. On the TV, a photo of Zhou Yang inspecting the byte base happened to appear. Hey, isn't this Zhao? Chen Ruoxi exclaimed. Really, they look exactly the same. Zhang Bo agreed. Zhou Yang turned his head to look at the TV. It was indeed himself. It should be the photo he took when he visited Bide. The problem is that Zhou Yang remembered that there was no photographer with him at the time. And what is the meaning of this documentary? Why didn't anyone tell him? In the documentary, it started with the Lungsum battery, then introduced the Xiangxin 100, and finally introduced the WS-15 that had just made its maiden flight, and even filmed interviews with Yuan Haifeng and Li Bingsun. In front of the camera, Yuan Haifeng said, when I first met Mr. Zhao, I thought he was just the head of the institute and the leader in management. Later, I learned that the key core material used in our WS-15, high-strength crystalline steel, was developed by Mr. Zhao and his team. At that time, I learned that not only high-strength crystalline steel, but also Lungsum batteries and Xiangxin 100 were developed by Mr. Zhao. Li Bingsun was even more admiring and said, Mr. Zhao is the greatest genius I have ever seen, the Einstein of modern society, and he is a practical person. As far as I know, the country was originally planning to promote Lungsan batteries, but at the strong request of Mr. Zhao, the country chose BIDE, with BIDE as the main body, to promote and produce Lungsan batteries. It can be said that, if it weren't for Mr. Zhao, even if we could use Lungsan batteries and Xiangxin 100, it would probably be a few years later. On TV, the two chief engineers talked freely. Zhou Yang was a little dumbfounded. When did these two people accept an interview? And this praise was a bit too much. What a role model of the times, a modern Einstein. Zhou Yang felt a little embarrassed listening to this. The entire documentary was 10 minutes long. The last scene was at the Zion Aircraft Industry Exhibition press conference. Zhou Yang looked up at the J-20 flying overhead and applauded. Aunt, Mom, I saw my uncle. Zhang Tong pointed at the TV and said. Chen Ruoyan was standing behind Zhou Yang and was also captured by the camera. Zhang Bo and Chen Ruoxi came back to their senses. During the 10-minute documentary, both of them were stunned and had dull expressions. Now they turned their heads and looked at Zhou Yang and Chen Ruoyan again, and they couldn't say a word for a long time. Zhao, no, Mr. Zhao. Zhang Bo trembled as he spoke. Zhou Yang hurriedly said, Brother Zhang, you should call me Zhao. Also, no matter who I am, or what I have done, in 8 months, we will be a family. As for this, not to mention you, even I don't know it. The word family made Zhang Bo and Chen Ruoxi relax. The two looked at each other, their eyes still full of disbelief. Zhao, you are so amazing, a great man of the country, a modern Einstein. By the way, that Lungsan battery, Xiangxin 100, are you really the one who developed it? I was planning to buy an electric car this year. By the way, mobile phone. Zhang Bo took out his mobile phone, which was the Mate 40 Pro, and said, did you develop the chip inside it? Zhou Yang nodded awkwardly and said, yes. Then the property downstairs was under control just now. There must be a big leader coming, but this big leader is you, right? Zhang Bo said again. Zhou Yang glanced at Chen Ruoyan and said, it should be me. Oh my god, this is too incredible. Zhang Bo said for a long time, not knowing how to describe it. After a while, he suddenly opened his mobile phone and said, no, I have to take a photo quickly and post it on WeChat Moments. By the way, can I post it? Zhang Bo asked again. Zhou Yang said, that's fine, but I guess, even if you post it, no one will recognize me. Zhang Bo hurried over to hug Zhou Yang's shoulders and take a photo, saying, how is that possible? You've been on the news broadcast, who wouldn't recognize you? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96 Uproar. Zhang Bo took a photo and quickly posted it on WeChat Moments. Guess who this is? Zhang Bo still has quite a few friends on WeChat, including former colleagues and friends, as well as many colleagues and partners in the same industry. After posting the WeChat, someone quickly responded, who is this? I don't know him. After a while, someone else said, fuck, isn't this Zhou Yang from TV? Oh my god, brother Zhang, you are so awesome. Is he coming to your house for dinner? And it wasn't just this one person. It happened to be the news broadcast, and many people had watched the documentary. When they saw Zhang Bo's WeChat Moments, they were all shocked. Is this true? They look alike, don't they? Yes, they look too much alike. Do you even need to ask? It can't be true. Who is he? He's been on CCTV. He's a national leader, an academician. So awesome. How could we ordinary people know him? No, brother Zhang, you have such a delicious table. Why don't you call me? I'll be there soon. Forget it. I don't think you're here to eat for free. You just want to see who this person is. No worries, I'm going downstairs. Zhang Bo was watching happily at first, but as he watched, he felt something was wrong. He found that several of his friends claimed that they were coming over soon. He immediately panicked and said, Zhao, my friends said they were coming over. Is that okay? Let me see. Chen Ruoyan snatched the phone took a look at it, then looked at Zhang Bo helplessly. She immediately pressed the earphones and said, Liu Jun, plan number 1, listen to my notice, and prepare to evacuate. Zhang Bo opened his mouth wide. Chen Ruoxi also asked curiously, Royan, who are you talking to? Zhang Bo had already reacted. He was afraid that the downstairs was already full of bodyguards, just like in the movies. Dozens of bodyguards would rush in and say, Mr. Zhao, we are leaving. Zhou Yang glared at Chen Royan and said, okay, don't be so nervous. If someone really comes, just come. Why can't I see anyone? But, no buts, come on, continue eating. Zhou Yang said. Chen Royan hesitated for a moment before pressing the headset and said, stop the action and continue to be alert. At this moment, Chen Ruoxi also reacted and couldn't help turning her head to look towards the balcony and said, Royan, it won't be like in the movies, with snipers pointing their guns at this side in the future. How is that possible? Zhou Yang said hurriedly. Zhang Bo also said, that's right, you have watched too many movies. Really? Chen Ruoxi looked regretful. Zhou Yang smiled. That's what he said, but he believed it was definitely possible. Brother Zhang, what do you think of what I just said? Zhou Yang asked. Zhang Bo was stunned and said, are you talking about running a business? Zhou Yang nodded and said, you will be responsible for the management and operation of a business. You will find the specific technical personnel. I will provide the technical information. We will make a transmission system, a high-tech transmission system. You don't have to care whether it makes a loss or not. This company is just to prove the technology. You don't have to think about making money. When the technology matures, you can choose to cooperate with external companies at that time. It's up to you. In short, it's called a business, but it's more like a pure research-based company. Zhang Bo opened his mouth wide. He didn't expect Zhou Yang to be serious. And Zhou Yang also had to provide technical information. If Zhou Yang had said this before, Zhang Bo probably wouldn't take it to heart. After all, he thought Zhou Yang was engaged in artificial intelligence and didn't understand the transmission system at all. But now, Zhang Bo doesn't dare to think so. The WS-15 developed by Zhou Yang has already gone into space, so making a transmission system is not a small matter. But I'm afraid I can't do it well, Zhang Bo said. He originally thought that his level was high enough, and he was also counted in the industry, but in front of Zhou Yang, he suddenly felt that his level was really not worth mentioning. Zhou Yang said, don't worry, brother Zhang, I'm still here. Chen Ruoxi hurriedly winked at Zhang Bo. Okay then. Zhang Bo finally nodded. Zhou Yang said, okay, this matter is settled. I'll have someone contact you later to help you deal with the company's affairs. As for the shares, they will be divided into 4 parts. You and Tang Tang will each get 1 share, and Royan will also get 1 share. Zhou Yang said again. Zhang Bo was stunned and hurriedly said, how can this be done? You pay the money, and the company will definitely be yours. I just need to take the salary. Chen Ruoxi also nodded and said, yes, although we are about to become a family, brothers still have to settle accounts clearly. We can't take your money. The 2 people are still reasonable. Zhou Yang said, okay, brother Zhang, let's arrange it this way. Just think of it as a gift I prepared for Tang Tang. But, Zhang Bo wanted to refute. At this time, Chen Royan said, okay, brother-in-law, just agree. He sees things farther than us. He doesn't care about money or anything like that. These shares are a gift prepared by the 2 of us for you. I hope you can live a better life. Chen Royan also knew that Zhang Bo and Chen Ruoxi had a hard time in SZ, paying for the mortgage and so on. Okay. Zhang Bo and Chen Ruoxi looked at each other and nodded. In the end, Zhang Bo's friend didn't show up. I don't know if he was stopped by someone. And this documentary also caused an uproar across the country, especially on the internet. There were many people who discredited Zhou Yang before, thinking that Zhou Yang had robbed Yuan Haifeng of his credit or something. Now that the documentary is out, everyone is dumbfounded. On Douyin, there are also official media that released this documentary as soon as possible, and it was on the hot list as soon as possible. Fuck. At this moment, other than fuck, there is no other word that can describe my expression. Needless to say, he is a great man of the country. Awesome. He is only 27 years old. Idol. This is a real idol. An idol that all young people should learn from. I apologize for defaming academician Zhou before. I'm so ashamed that I have no place to hide. This is a real great man of the country. A great scientist. The country needs such talents. The key is that it is too awesome. I can't believe that these things were developed by academician Zhou. That's right. From Lungsan batteries to Xiangxin 100. What kind of genius can develop these things? By the way, what is the high-strength crystalline steel that Chief Engineer Yuan mentioned in the documentary? It was also developed by academician Zhou. Don't ask. If you ask, just treat me to coffee. This kind of thing is something that ordinary people like us can know. I suddenly remembered one thing. Matrix Energy's successive acquisitions of Byte's battery business and high silicon Kirin were probably instructed by academician Zhou. Then Matrix Energy's acquisition of Beidou should also have been promoted by academician Zhou. Beidou suddenly turned over a new leaf and poached people from all over the country with high salaries. Is it also preparing to make a big move? Now that you mention it, I remembered it. I thought it was strange that Beidou suddenly delisted, but now I understand that it is trying to kick out foreign capital and let the country take the lead. It must be like high silicon, with some important research and development results, and it is very likely that it was developed by academician Zhou. Artificial intelligence, the person above has been talking for so long, but he hasn't gotten to the point. Didn't Beidou announce a long time ago that they were going to develop artificial intelligence? I used to think it was nonsense, but now I think that if it was led by academician Zhou, then they might be researching real artificial intelligence. Damn, artificial intelligence, awesome. Chapter 97 Particle Thruster. Zhou Yang's name spread throughout the entire Z country with an incredible popularity. Everyone knows him. Overnight, countless people remembered Zhou Yang's face. He is a nationally recognized great man who developed the Lungsan battery, Xiangxin 100, and made the WS-15 fly for the first time. Reports and discussions about Zhou Yang can be seen everywhere on various forums and video sharing websites. Zhou Yang is young, and some of his research results are worth discussing. However, these popularity did not affect Zhou Yang. After finishing his trip to SZ, he has returned to the institute to conduct the next stage of research. The next research focuses the particle thruster. This is also the key system that allows the mecha to fly short distances. After the WS-15 flew for the first time, Li Bingxuan also returned to the institute. His original plan was to go home and return to the Liming Group to continue designing aircraft engines. As he said, he wanted to design the strongest aircraft engine comparable to the F-135 engine, with high-strength crystallized steel as the base. In Li Bingxuan's opinion, research and development should be much easier. But Li Xiaoyu suddenly informed him that Zhou Yang asked him to attend a meeting. After coming to the institute, Li Bingxuan had never held any meetings. Unlike other institutes, they held a small meeting every 3 days, a large meeting every 5 days, and a summary meeting every 7 days. Precious time was wasted on such meaningless meetings. Zhou Yang brought Tang Ning to the conference room and waited. Zhu Chen was also present. Engineer Li is here. Please sit down first. We will wait for another person, Zhou Yang said. Li Bingxuan sat down without knowing what was going on and gave Zhu Chen a questioning look. Zhu Chen shook his head slightly and shrugged. Don't look at me. I don't know what to do either. An area 30 kilometers away from the institute has been designated as an industrial base for high-strength crystallized steel. Now a large number of engineering personnel are moving in and carrying out infrastructure construction 24 hours a day. In a month at most, the infrastructure of this large steel plant covering an area of 20 square kilometers will be completed. The remaining part is the preparation and construction of blast furnaces and other equipment. Zhu Chen will be responsible for this. During this period, Zhu Chen cannot be idle and must communicate with the construction team at any time to determine the construction plan. So Zhu Chen was also very busy. After waiting for 20 minutes, the door opened and Li Xiaoyu walked in with a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was wearing a suit, with his hair parted in the middle, wearing black framed glasses, and dressed like a scholar. When he saw the people in the room, he was a little excited. Finally, his eyes fell on Zhou Yang, and he hurriedly came up to him. and stretched out his hand and said, "I finally meet you, Mr. Zhou. When I received the notice that you invited me here, my first reaction was disbelief. Now that I see you, I believe it. Welcome, Professor Yi Rongming." Zhou Yang stood up and shook hands with the visitor. "Yi Rongming?" Li Bingxuan frowned. Kang Ling next to him hurriedly said, "Isn't this the particle physics expert from the Institute of Physics of Nankai University? He seems to be the best among those who do particle physics research in China." Li Bingxuan also remembered it, but he still didn't quite understand why Zhou Yang called Yi Rongming here. Particle physics and their work on metal materials and their own genes can't be connected together. Zhou Yang asked Yi Rongming to sit down and then said, "The high-strength crystal steel and WS-15 projects are basically finished. Next, I would like to ask everyone present to help me with the research." Zhou Yang turned around and began to write and draw on the blackboard behind him. The three of them quickly read it attentively. As they watched, Yi Rongming suddenly frowned and said, "This seems to be an ionization model." Li Bingxuan also said, "It seems to be applied to the propulsion system." "Hall thruster," Zhu Chen suddenly exclaimed. The three looked at each other and nodded at the same time. The ionization model that Zhou Yang was writing made them see the shadow of the Hall thruster. However, they couldn't understand some key things and didn't know why Zhou Yang chose to set it up like this. "Oh my god, it's actually a Hall thruster. Isn't this thing said to have no research value?" Corning whispered. Li Bingxuan shook his head and said, "How could it not have research value? It's just that with the current level of technology, it's impossible to research a suitable Hall thruster." After a pause, Li Bingxuan said, "After all, this is known as the most sci-fi future technology. In the endless void, with a sound of ignition, the tail of the space battleship ejected a blue tail flame, and the space battleship slowly began to accelerate. This kind of scene has appeared in science fiction movies more than once. And now, science fiction has come into reality, and Li Bingxuan also has a trembling feeling all over his body. Although there are many parts of the model in front of him that Li Bingxuan still can't understand, it doesn't prevent him from believing in the reliability of these things. Just for Zhou Yang's ability to make Lungsan batteries and Chianx in 100, no one dared to question Zhou Yang. It is no exaggeration to say that Zhou Yang has been pushed to the altar now. As long as he makes a statement saying what he wants to study and what results will be produced, no one will consider anything and start researching directly, and they are sure that they can research what Zhou Yang wants. After more than 10 minutes and writing onto large blackboards, Zhou Yang stopped. "You three guessed correctly. The things I wrote are related to Hall thrusters. In simple terms, they are particle thrusters, and these contents are my research on particle thrusters. But these are just some programmatic things. There are still many specific contents. I have almost sorted out the information." "Xiao," Zhou Yang called out, and Li Xiao came in and placed a hard drive in front of each person. "The specific information is in it. I hope you three can cooperate to help me complete this project," Zhou Yang said. Zhu Chen and Li Bingxuan picked up the hard drive and walked out without saying anything. Yi Rongming also hurriedly asked, "Where is my office?" Without asking anything, he went straight into work mode. Zhou Yang smiled. He had originally thought of a lot of words to persuade the three people, but now it seems that it is completely redundant. At the same time, on the second day after Zhou Yang returned to Wanghu village and decided on the Particle Research Institute project, at the routine press conference of the BJ Ministry of Commerce, facing many reporters, the spokesperson of the Ministry of Commerce suddenly broke a shocking news. "Starting from January 20th, we will conduct a 90-day investigation into Apple's misconduct in its domestic business operations. During the investigation, Apple must stop any business operations in the country." After the spokesperson finished speaking, all the reporters present were stunned. Reported by someone. Who reported it? What does Apple mean by misconduct in its domestic business operations? From beginning to end, the Ministry of Commerce did not say anything substantial, but only said one thing, that it decided to conduct a 90-day investigation into Apple. The key is that during the investigation, all Apple's business operations in the country must be stopped. In other words, Apple is banned from selling in China. Many reporters immediately thought of the sanctions that Apple had previously initiated against Huawei. The Ministry of Commerce responded directly, and the first move was a killer move, a ban on sales. When the news was released, there was an uproar. Chapter 98 Crazy Plan. On the Douyin hot list, a piece of news instantly dominated the list. Apple is banned from sale. Countless people saw the spokesperson of the Ministry of Commerce, who announced the Ministry of Commerce's investigation decision in a serious tone, accompanied by the exciting music, and suddenly felt that a war was coming. This is war, an economic war. The government is shameless and personally stepped in to impose comprehensive sanctions on our companies. Why can't we sanction companies? It's not polite not to reciprocate. Treat others in their own way. I support the decision of the Ministry of Commerce to ban the sale of Apple. That's right, I don't use Apple anymore. Domestic mobile phones are not bad. I support domestic products. In the comments, there were overwhelming cheers. Lunxin batteries have made breakthroughs in battery technology and have become the world's #1. Xiangxin 100 has broken the monopoly of foreign chips and made chips that are 100 times more powerful than A14. WS-15 also made its first flight, and the aviation engine problem that has plagued Z country for many years has also been solved. During this period, the national pride of the people has been greatly enhanced. When I think of Huawei being sanctioned by country, it's like my own child being bullied. How can I bear it? Now that I see the Ministry of Commerce taking action and hitting the snake at its weakest point, directly banning the sale of Apple, I feel so relieved. Besides, Apple has been releasing doll phones year after year for these years, but there has been no revolutionary breakthrough. The original Apple fans have long given up and turned to domestic mobile phones. So almost 99% of people choose to support the ban on the sale of Apple. The few complaints and dissatisfaction are also drowned in this wave of public opinion. The day after the Ministry of Commerce issued the investigation order, all Apple official stores in China were forcibly closed by local industrial and commercial departments, and all inventory phones were sealed and no longer allowed to be sold. All Apple phones were immediately removed from all major e-commerce channels. The stock price of Apple in the United States also plummeted, and it was the kind of plummet that could not be pulled back. Apple headquarters. Cook angrily punched the table and shouted, "How dare they? How dare they ban us? I want to appeal. No, I want to sue them." After cursing again, Cook calmed down a little. Someone next to him said, "Okay, it's useless to say this now. We need to think about the next countermeasures and how to explain to the shareholders." "Explain?" Cook sneered and said, "What to explain? Those idiots on Wall Street. Don't they understand that this is a war and we have to fight back?" After a pause, Cook said, "Go, make a statement saying that we regret the behavior of the Ministry of Commerce of Country Z and are now considering withdrawing from the Country Z market completely." The faces of many executives present changed, and they hurriedly said, "Cook, we are not really going to withdraw from the Country Z market, are we? Apple's revenue in Country Z accounts for about 25% of their revenue. In other words, a quarter of the revenue is generated by Country Z. If Apple really withdraws from Country Z, it will be a devastating blow to Apple." Cook waved his hand arrogantly and said, "How is it possible? How can we give up such a big market? Aren't they going to ban us? Then we have to make a stronger response and force them to compromise. When that time comes, they will still beg us to go back. Our mobile phones are the best in the world, and they are reluctant to give up ours." Cook immediately began to visit the top leaders of the government frequently. With the promotion of Intel, Qualcomm, and Nvidia, the government soon decided to fight back against the decision of the Ministry of Commerce of Z to ban Apple. As for how to fight back, it was not mentioned above, and Cook did not know. But after getting a positive answer, Cook returned to Apple headquarters with satisfaction and waited for the response of the government. However, Cook never dreamed that the response of the government would be like this. At the CIA headquarters, Director Ferguson summoned a white man with a beard and cold eyes. "Adrian, do you have any plans for Zhou Yang?" Ferguson asked. After the last trip to the White House, Ferguson named Adrian and put him in charge of the operation, but he never found an opportunity to act, and the White House's attitude towards Zhou Yang kept changing. Sometimes, He thought about taking Zhou Yang to Country M, but sometimes he felt that it was unlikely, so he still advocated killing Zhou Yang once and for all. It has been delayed until now, and Adrian has not done anything. Hearing Ferguson's words, Adrian's eyes lit up, and he asked hurriedly, "Has the White House made a decision?" Ferguson nodded and said, "This guy is very troublesome. Even WS-15 flew into the sky with his help. If we leave it alone, Country Z will soon surpass us in all aspects. So, in their words, we must strike first." "Okay, tell me about your plan." Adrian was excited and said hurriedly, "Director, I have imagined many assassination methods, such as camouflaging and lurking in, or buying off traitors, but none of them are feasible. After the last assassination at the airport, the security protection around Zhou Yang must be upgraded to the highest level, and we have no chance of contacting him." Ferguson nodded. In the past few days, the government of Country Z has directly pushed Zhou Yang to the forefront. In this case, the security for Zhou Yang will only be more stringent. "Just tell me, what's your plan?" Adrian lowered his voice and said, "My plan is very direct and simple. While Zhou Yang is in the institute, send a fighter jet to blow up his institute." Ferguson's mouth opened wide instantly. He knew that Adrian was crazy and would not care about the consequences to achieve his goal, but this plan was still too bold. "Do you want to start a war?" Ferguson roared. Adrian shook his head and said, "No, based on my understanding of Country Z, they are not ready for a full-scale war with us yet, and they can endure it, so even if we really do it, for the sake of the overall situation, they will continue to endure it, and will not start a war." Ferguson said, "This is your idea. If a war really starts, you and I will both be sinners." Adrian looked indifferent and said, "If a war really starts, then fight it. Anyway, there will be a war sooner or later." Ferguson panted heavily and said, "You are crazy, crazy." At this moment, a man's voice suddenly came from the phone on Ferguson's desk. "It's not that this plan can't be implemented." Adrian chuckled. When he sat down, he found that the phone was connected, which meant that someone was listening to their conversation. It was most likely someone in the White House. Ferguson's heart was pounding, and he hurriedly said, "Sir, Adrian's plan is too crazy. It can't be implemented." "Okay." The person on the other end of the phone interrupted Ferguson and said, "We will have a meeting to discuss it. You wait for notification." After that, he hung up the phone with a beep. Chapter 99 Emergency Evacuation. AFH. M Country Air Force Base. As night fell, a ghostly plane slid down and landed on the airport. At the same time, inside the base, in a secret little room, a group of people were busy and nervous. Adrian was there too. In front of him sat a middle-aged man with a dead look in his eyes. "Colonel Riener, this is your target." Adrian held a satellite picture with a mountain and some buildings on it. This mountain was marked with a red cross. After you enter the other side's air defense, there is a high probability that you will be discovered by the other side, but please give priority to completing the mission, even if it costs your life. Adrian said slowly. Riener glanced at Adrian lightly and said, "Okay, since I'm here, I know what to do. You don't need to teach me. Tell me, when can we set off?" Adrian didn't say anything more. The Riener in front of him was the one selected by the higher-ups, and this mission could be said to be a mission with no chance of survival, and no doubt of death. Since Riener was chosen, Riener must have made psychological preparations. "Wait for my news." Adrian stopped talking nonsense, turned around and left, letting Riener rest. An hour later, Adrian appeared again, and nodded to Riener. Through the intelligence system, Adrian has confirmed that Zhou Yang is in the institute at this time. Riener strode out of the room without saying a word. At the airport, there was an F-22. It was fully fueled and loaded with missiles. The auxiliary fuel tank was not brought, and there was no need, because this was a mission that could not be returned. Riener boarded the fighter and put on the mask. Below, Adrian waved to Riener and shouted, "I wish you success." Riener didn't even look at him and closed the cabin cover directly. The fighter taxied on the runway, spraying light blue tail flames, soaring into the sky, and disappeared into the night. At the same time, at 11 o'clock in the evening in the 6th Bureau of BJ Special Intelligence, Han Haining, who had not yet left work, received a call in his office. "What did you say?" Han Haining was shocked. Are you sure the news is accurate? Han Haining asked. Accurate. At this time, the fighter jets may have already set off. The phone was hung up quickly. Han Haining listened to the busy tone for a while, and then he reacted and quickly grabbed a red phone. The news was passed on as soon as possible. Wanghu Village Research Institute. At this time, Zhou Yang also rested, mainly because Chen Ruoyan asked him to go to bed early and get up early and take care of his body. The two hugged each other and fell asleep, and they had already fallen asleep. At this moment, there was a muffled bang, and the door was kicked open. Chen Ruoyan got up reflexively, grabbed a pistol from the bedside, and pointed it in the direction of the door. The light turned on. It was Liu Jun, panting, and said, "Code Red, emergency evacuation." Chen Ruoyan's face changed instantly. Beside him, Zhou Yang was still dazed. Chen Ruoyan quickly got up, picked up Zhou Yang on the bed by the waist, and rushed out of the room with Liu Jun. Outside, the research institute was in chaos, and the alarm was blaring. Soldiers were running back and forth, and security guards were directing researchers in the institute to evacuate through secret passages. When this institute was built, an underground secret passage was left that could be evacuated 5 kilometers away. What's going on? Zhou Yang woke up instantly and asked dumbfoundedly when he saw himself being held by Chen Ruoyan. Chen Ruoyan was holding a person, but she was walking briskly and whispered, "Don't panic. Emergency evacuation. Don't worry. I won't let anything happen to you." Zhou Yang looked at himself and then at Chen Ruoyan. 2 people, one wearing underwear and the other wearing shorts. Even if they want to evacuate, they don't have to rush to not even wear clothes. Just as he was about to speak, he saw a special agent carrying Li Bingsun, who was also wearing only shorts, out of a dormitory in front. Zhou Yang stopped talking instantly. Well, that's it. At the border, pilot Zheng Fang was flying a J-10 on a routine air patrol along the border. In the vast night, the only sound in the silence was the roar of the engine. At this moment, a hurried call from the command center suddenly came from the communication channel. Falcon 1, we have received accurate information that an enemy fighter will pass through your defense zone. Search quickly and drive it away immediately after discovering it. If the enemy fighter does not obey, shoot it down directly. Do you understand? Shoot it down. For a moment, Zheng Fang's heart seemed to be grabbed by someone, almost stagnant. He took a deep breath and instantly prepared for battle. Falcon 1, I understand. As soon as the voice fell, there was a whoosh. Something flew over the J-10 at an incredible speed. In an instant, Zheng Fang looked up and took a quick glance, only to see a shadow like a big bird flying by. Fuck. Zheng Fang pushed the joystick hard. The throttle was at the bottom, and he quickly pulled up, then flipped back, and instantly turned on the afterburner. The plane seemed to have been kicked hard by someone, and chased madly in the direction where the black shadow disappeared. Command center, I have found the target. Fuck, it's an F-22. Damn it. Zheng Fang said hurriedly. The sudden high angle pull up and dive, the pressure of up to 9G made his blood rush to his head. Shoot him down. The command center ordered without hesitation. Zheng Fang's heart skipped a beat, but he was not nervous at all. He began to try to lock the opponent. At the same time, the machine gun began to fire, drawing a streak of light in the night sky. But soon, Zheng Fang found that the F-22 was getting farther and farther away. No, I can't catch up with him. Request support. Zheng Fang was anxious. In terms of speed, his J-10, even if it turned on the afterburner, could not catch up with the F-22. Support will be here soon, hold on a little longer. The voice of the command center was also very nervous. While speaking, the F-22 had accelerated and disappeared in the vast night. The target has disappeared. Zheng Fang was so angry that he slapped his thigh. This feeling of powerlessness that he couldn't catch up was too unpleasant. At this moment, a voice suddenly appeared in the communication channel. Falcon number 1, I'm Hunter, approaching the defense zone. Estimated time, 30 seconds. Support is coming. Zheng Fang hurriedly said, brother, be careful. The other side is an F-22. This grandson flies too fast. The hunter chuckled and said, don't worry. In terms of speed, I'm not afraid of him. A few dozen kilometers away, a J-20 was coming through the night sky. Zheng Fang reacted instantly and was about to speak when the alarm in the cabin suddenly sounded. I'm locked. Zheng Fang's scalp numbed instantly and screamed. It's an F-22. It went around behind me. It's not good. The other side launched a missile. Zheng Fang breathed rapidly and quickly pulled up at a large angle. Jamming bomb release. The instant high angle plus roller operation and the huge overload made Zheng Fang unable to breathe, but he still forced himself to concentrate and turned back to check the situation of the jamming bomb. The jamming bomb didn't hit. Fuck. The voice disappeared. On the J-20, the pilot Ma Xiaogang looked up and saw a huge ball of fire rising into the sky in the night sky far away. Fuck your ancestors. Ma Xiaogang's eyes turned red instantly. Chapter 100 Close Combat. In an instant, Ma Xiaogang's eyes moved, and he caught a ray of light disappearing from his vision. In an instant, Ma Xiaogang opened the afterburner and pushed the throttle to the bottom. The J-20 below him burst into a huge roar, and the two WS-15s sprayed hot flames. That's right, the J-20 driven by Ma Xiaogang was specially transferred and equipped with the latest WS-15 to deal with the ultra-high-speed F-22 fighter. The fighter made a creaking sound when turning at a large angle, and the wing seemed to be unable to bear it. Hold on. Ma Xiaogang roared, and the engine completed the turn, turning into a sharp arrow, breaking the speed of sound in an instant, and madly chasing the F-22 in the distance. At this moment, not only Ma Xiaogang witnessed the tragic death of his comrade in arms, but also in the command center, listening to the noise in the communication channel, Zheng Fang's last words seemed to still echo in his ears. The scene was dead silent. After a long while, a middle-aged man in a major general's uniform pressed the communication button and said word by word, "Hunter, kill him for me. Crossing the border and destroying our fighter planes. This F-22, no matter what, can't let him go. Don't worry, even if I die, I will definitely kill him." Ma Xiaogang's rapid panting sounded in the communication channel. The major general put down the communicator and immediately shouted, "Notify all radar systems along the way to lock this F-22 for me with all their strength. Once locked, directly launch missiles and kill him for me. Notify the Thunder Brigade again. Let all the combat-ready aircraft take off for me. If we don't shoot down this F-22 today, everyone will be a sinner." The major general slammed his fist on the table and roared angrily. The fighter was roaring. The J-20 was wrapped in a sound barrier cloud, and the target was already 50 kilometers away. Ma Xiaogang tried to lock the other party, but the other party was a stealth fighter, and it was not an easy task to lock it. Moreover, in the afterburner state, the J-20 reached an astonishing top speed of 2.5 Hz, and in a short time, it had exceeded the minimum attack range of the medium-range missile. Ma Xiaogang, keep your distance. The voice of the command center came from the communication channel. No. Ma Xiaogang roared and refused. In fact, at this time, keeping your distance is the most appropriate approach. Because this is the J-20, a stealth fighter like this has a combat range of more than hundreds of kilometers. It often locks the opponent hundreds of kilometers away, launches missiles to hit the opponent, and then leaves in style. It's like a sniper lurking on the battlefield, and snipers the opponent before the opponent finds you. But now Ma Xiaogang is also facing a stealth fighter, the most advanced stealth fighter in the world. It is too difficult to lock the opponent with radar and kill the opponent hundreds of kilometers away, under the premise that the opponent has super stealth and electronic countermeasures system. And when that time comes, if the missile can't hit, it will be difficult to catch up with the opponent. In a flash, Ma Xiaogang was only 10 kilometers away from the F-22. Die. Ma Xiaogang roared and pulled the trigger, launching an air combat missile. The magazine opened, and a PL-10 air combat missile ignited and flew out. Both fighters are the world's top fighters, and the performance of the fighters is also the strongest. The PL-10 air combat missile equipped with the J-20 has the ability to lock after launch. In other words, this kind of missile does not need to lock the opponent. After entering the missile attack range, it can be directly launched, and then it can turn around and leave, because the missile can search for the target and lock it autonomously. In the F-22 cabin, Rihanna knew that there was a fighter chasing behind, and it should be the most advanced J-20 fighter of Country Z. The speed is quite fast. Reina has already discovered that the opponent is approaching him at an incredible speed. And the next moment, the alarm sounded loudly. It was Navier-Stokes who launched the missile. "Rookie, play with me," Reina said contemptuously, not panicking at all. Since he was selected to perform this kind of mission, his resume is not ordinary. With 20 years of flying experience, he has participated in many wars and carried out hundreds of missions of all sizes. He has shot down 11 fighter planes alone. He is an ace among aces. At a distance of 10 kilometers, it would probably take only a few seconds for a missile to be launched and hit. Reina instantly turned on the afterburner. As the fighter roared out, a hidden hatch on the fuselage opened, and a small decoy bomb popped out. The air combat missile hit the decoy bomb head on, and a huge ball of light exploded in the air. Taking advantage of the explosion, the F-22 suddenly pulled up and did an Melman turn. The J-20 with afterburner was like a sharp arrow, passing under the F-22. Attack and defense changed. "Little guy, die for me." Reina sneered and fired a close-range combat missile. With the same post-launch lock function, the missile shot towards the J-20. Navier-Stokes tried to maneuver and evade. He also had decoy bombs, but in such close combat, every defensive measure was extremely precious. Once used, it was gone. Once used, the aircraft would be destroyed, and the pilots would die. With the help of the super thrust of the 2WS-15S, the J-20 also showed incredible maneuverability. In terms of aerodynamic layout alone, the J-20 is even better than the F-22. Flipping and rolling, the missiles behind were still approaching slowly like a shadow. Navier-Stokes gritted his teeth and the fighter suddenly stalled. Falling leaves. At such a high speed, it is difficult to use falling leaves. Whether the fighter can withstand the pressure of maneuvering is not to mention whether the fighter can withstand the pressure of maneuvering. The key is the pilot himself. The strong overload in an instant is very likely to make the pilot faint. In that case, the aircraft will really be destroyed, and the pilots will die. Navier-Stokes' eyes were black, and the huge pressure on his body made him feel like he had vomited all his internal organs. The missile passed by the J-20 and exploded into a ball of fireworks in the air. At this moment, the night sky was bright, and a series of bullets swept over. Navier-Stokes pushed the accelerator hard, accelerated instantly, and made a sharp turn to avoid a series of machine gun bullets. The F-22 has a machine gun, while the J-20 does not even have a machine gun. After all, when this thing was designed, it was not considered that such extreme situations of close combat and close-range combat would occur. But Navier-Stokes came to rescue and saw his comrades being killed. The two fighters collided at close range and had to engage in such a tragic aerial combat. Navier-Stokes continued to pull up to avoid machine gun bullets. In the cabin of the F-22, Reina frowned. The J-20 in front of him was more difficult than he thought. At this distance, the machine gun hit was all up to luck, and there was only one missile left for close-range combat. And if he left directly, he would not be as fast as the J-20 and could not escape. With a flicker of his eyes, Reina had an idea, turned the nose of the plane, and gave up the pursuit. Want to escape? Navier-Stokes immediately noticed the F-22's actions, roared, and chased after it. "I still have one PL-10 left. I must enter the no escape zone before I can fire it. This is my only chance." Navier-Stokes' blood was boiling, but his mind was still very calm, calculating the power comparison between the two. The no escape zone is an extremely close distance and a suitable angle. After firing the combat bullet, no matter how strong the opponent's mobility is, it is almost impossible to escape, and it will hit. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.